Thank you, everyone. We'll bring the July 26th City Council meeting to order. And please rise for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. Under the consent agenda, I'd like to add item K, supplemental payment summary.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. To the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Presentations. Our 2022 Anoka County Sheriff's Office Law Enforcement Contract. And Sheriff Stewart was with us tonight. Good evening.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, guests. Nice to see everybody. With me tonight is, of course, your liaison, who's a little more familiar with everybody, Commander Orlando. As you know, she acts as your liaison or as the police chief for the city, representing the sheriff's office. And tonight, we're going to be just reviewing the 2022 law enforcement contract from the sheriff's office and with the city of East Bethel. And it's review for most, but it's a little bit newer for some, so I'm going to try to fly fairly high at about the 10,000 foot level, and if there's any other information you want me to dig deeper, please just let me know and we'll answer whatever questions you may have. I'm happy to say that the Anoka County Sheriff's Office is an award-winning institution that gives pride to all of our members for providing service that exceeds expectations while embracing our roles as ambassadors in the community. And we do a lot of community outreach. We do a lot of those type of efforts to build those bridges out in the community. And I'm proud to say that I hired the best, and I trained the best, and we expect in service their absolute best. If a deputy falls short of our standards, we will also swiftly address those situations. The Anoka County Sheriff's Office contracts are in simplest form, all-inclusive. Our goal is to provide worry-free service to the city that includes, of course, the patrol deputy coverage that we most typically think about, the patrol deputy and the squad car that drives around the city. However, that just represents one spoke in the entire wheel. It also includes all the necessary support services, including other deputies. So if there's additional calls for service or large-scale incidents, even as you know, even a large-scale crash can require multiple squads for multiple hours in some cases, and there still will be other calls for service coming in. So we make sure that whatever it takes to get the job done within the city, it's handled. Our contracts also include all of the HR, human resources side of things, the hiring, all those protocols, as well as training and meeting all of the Minnesota peace officer standards and training requirements for the state. It also includes any of the union negotiations or related issues. Our contracts also include supervision of including the street sergeants through their lieutenant, the commander, up to and including other command staff as well as myself. And I hope that you found we're readily available 24/7 should you need anything, and if that's not the case, I also want to know that. Our contracts also include all administrative support, our support staff, our records technicians. It also includes direct access to all 6 divisions of the Sheriff's Office, including some of our specialty units like the Criminal Investigative Division, our Crime Scene Unit, our SWAT team, our Marine Unit, the reserves for special events, as well as our K-9, our UAS program, etc. And one of the things that is often not necessarily appreciated until you need it is the economy of scale, knowing that with our law enforcement services providing coverage for 8 of the 21 communities of the county, we also have the largest police department in the county. And as such, if a deputy rolls an ankle or blows out a knee or hurts a shoulder, like I used to do some once in a while, or a squad hits a deer, those are backfilled and replaced without any hiccups to the city. You'll never notice or you'll never miss a beat in the coverage. And related to that, there are never any hidden fees or surprise costs. So when I say it's all inclusive, that really is our goal, is that you would not have to deal with any surprises on a regular basis. The ACSO contracts basically, in simplest terms, offers the best possible services for the best possible price. And that consistently demonstrates to the citizens that the council is making responsible decisions about public safety services in the community. The Anoka County Sheriff's Office contracts are also typically well below what other comparable demographic cities pay for law enforcement coverage without any sacrifice in service. The Anoka County Sheriff's Office has been the exclusive law enforcement provider for the community since 1857. And that was the year the Sheriff's Office was founded. So we've been patrolling these streets ever since. We've been providing the exclusive law enforcement services for the city of East Bethel since 1973. And at that point in time, the population was 2,586. We've come a long way together. In 1973, we provided 16 hours per day of coverage. And that daily coverage was reduced to 8 hours a day in 1976 and remained at 8 hours a day for 19 years until 1994 when it went up to 12 hours a day. And in 1996, it again increased to 16 hours a day. And the coming years brought varying degrees of coverage between 16 hours and 40 hours a day, plus additional community service hours were added each week in 2005. Then the current coverage of 16 hours, or excuse me, of 36 hours a day, plus the 20 hours a week of community service officer coverage began in 2012 and has remained in place since then. With the economic downturns and call loads permitting the action, we agreed to the city's request and lowered the daily coverage in 2012 back down to 36 hours a day from the previous 40-hour coverage. And nearly a decade later, we find ourselves evaluating the annual data which supports that we are able to remain at that level of coverage and meet our minimal protection standards that we established within the Sheriff's Office while making sure that we're available and working within our standards for protection coverage. Now, what does that standard for protection coverage mean specifically? And again, I'm going to fly fairly high. I'll delve as deep as you want, but our minimum standards are typically held to a 40% proactive time. That's our minimum time. Well, we recommend a 50% proactive time. Now, the short version, I think most of the council's but aware for our guests, our proactive time is how we would describe downtime, free time. So if they're not responding to a call, they're not writing a report, they're not going to jail, they're not working a crash site, they're not doing follow-up investigative processes, that's proactive time. And that's where we want them meeting with business owners. We want them patrolling the neighborhoods. We want them stopping speeders. We want them getting warrants. We want them doing whatever those quality of life issues. We want them to be proactive, that's the term, in making the city as safe and as positive as it can be. The good news is, again, 40% is our minimum, 50% is our recommended. East Bethel is currently at 50% proactive time with the city's coverage, so we're literally right where we would recommend. To be fair and consistent, I do review all the financial details that our resource manager presents to me annually to make sure that we are being fair and consistent across the cities and offer reductions in total costs where we are able to as well to make sure we're meeting the city's ongoing financial needs and challenges. As I said, the cities are held to that minimum proactive time as part of our fairness standards, and that allows us as an office the flexibility of our squads to respond wherever needed with no one city bearing the brunt or an unfair portion of the burden. And this also benefits all of the citizens by having more deputies available to meet the actual needs of the city. Now, during our contract discussions annually, if there is a need for increased coverage, I will do my best to give you advance notice of that. We're not going to say, oh, by the way, next week we need to start expanding something. I will try to give you at least 6 months, typically closer to a year and a half type notice. We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to begin properly preparing. So for the 2022 contract that I'm going to be presenting, it is consistent with all those things that I've just discussed and is also remaining consistent again with your current level of coverage. The costs are actual, based on real averages and fact-based estimates. Our contract formulas are also based on the prior full year's call for service. So our 2022 contract proposal will be based on the 2020 data, because we're still involved in 2021. We don't know what those numbers are going to look like. So before you should have a copy of our contract proposal. It should say 36-hour coverage in the top center, if you have that available. Or look behind me. This contract is from January 2022 through December 2022, and the 36-hour coverage, that indicates per day, and that's 365 days, that's every day of the year for you. But the 20 hours per week of CSO coverage represents 260 days of the year. Without getting into, again, all of the nitty-gritty, it kind of speaks for itself, but Section 1 personnel includes all of your deputies as well as related overtime, uniforms, insurance, anything related to that physical person that is going to be patrolling the streets and all of our related costs. And for those deputies for the year, the total of Section 1 personnel is $951,215. The vehicles, as you can see between the licensed squad and the CSO vehicles, 2.5 vehicles. all related maintenance, insurance. This does also include the related emergency equipment, cellular costs, et cetera. And that is, for Section 2, total cost is $161,635. And administrative costs is everything behind the scenes, our public safety data system, all of our records support staff, administrative support staff, and all of those other things that I mentioned earlier, and a lot more, actually. The total of that is $108,111. And I don't know why there's 27 cents. I just sworn we didn't add that. We usually round up or down or whatever's closest. But anyway, so the total cost to the city is $1,220,961. And if you recall, annually we receive dollars back from the state for providing training for our licensed deputies based on the number of full-time deputies we had the previous year. And because those training dollars are rolled into the cost of your deputy, we always give that back to the city as a reduction in the following year. And so that they call that the police state aid for training. That total is $50,160. So the net cost to the city would be $1,170,801. So that represents the 2022 contract. As I said, we will continue to pursue providing superior services that are known for their professionalism at the lowest possible rates to our partners, and we definitely consider you a partner. Well, again, paramount for us is ensuring the safety of all of our citizens within the city and across the county, as we proudly serve all of them in a way that I'm very proud of our team and the work that they do in and out. Our mission statement at the Sheriff's Office is to protect and serve the community in a manner that preserves the public trust. We see all around our nation what happens when trust is absent, and so we very strongly reiterate to our team as a matter of routine the importance of trust. And if that trust is compromised or something is lost, as I mentioned earlier, we will deal with that swiftly and have. Unfortunately, contrary to popular belief, law enforcement are humans, and humans make mistakes and humans can do dumb things. In simplest form, we don't tolerate human type behaviors if it compromises our integrity or if it does something to negatively affect the public trust. And so you have, again, my assurance that we deal with those things as they arise. It has been our pleasure to serve you as your law enforcement partner. We look forward to many continued years in doing this and being the example for what collaborative service delivery looks like. I'm proud to say that I get the opportunity at Rookie Sheriff School, as an example for the state of Minnesota, to be able to go down and talk to the rookie sheriffs across the state about what law enforcement contracts could and should look like. And so they literally use us as an example, thanks to partnerships like the one I have with you. So we thank you for that. I'm sure I forgot something, Commander Orlando. Anything key? Thank you. With that, I'll push pause, take a breath, and I'll answer any questions that you might have.
I got a couple of questions just to kind of expand the knowledge base on this.
Yes, sir.
I assume there's still a county-wides?
Yes.
And
Yes,
so how
thank
does
you.
that work?
Thank you. So we have, for everyone's information, we have within our patrol division, as I said, we do the police services for 8 of the cities in Anoka County. And so each city, in this case, there's 7.6 deputies, probably closer to 8, because it's hard to give us a 0.6 body. So there's roughly 8 deputies that you'll see coming and going throughout the city of East Bethel. They are what we call a contract deputy. They're dedicated to the city and always available for the citizens here. But we also have what we call countywide cars. And so those countywide cars, those countywide deputies are available to go where needed. And those are included with the contract, although not necessarily, they're basically covered in the admin costs. It's not considered a part of the billing. But we want to make sure that, again, coming back to providing the best possible service, if the East Bethel cars are tied up, we get another call, we get a 911 call, the countywide deputies will come in and take care of that call so that it's not waiting excessively for the East Bethel deputy to maybe come back from jail or something like that. That's what we often see in other communities that might have a smaller police department. Their calls might wait for as long as it takes, and we really strive to make sure that the wait time is minimal. We want to make sure that service, again, is as good as we can create. And so those countywide deputies do come in, backfill a lot, and are always out there.
So that's what I remember too. That's good to know too. And if I remember right, 65 is kind of the dividing line between the east and west.
Yeah, technically we use university as an east and west, but let's be honest, Highway 65 is the universal.
So I think the city benefits from that too.
Absolutely.
For the cities, like Blaine and Coon Rapids have their own police forces. And pretty much everything south there. I mean, how does the county, does the sheriff provide any services there on a routine basis, or?
On a routine basis, so again, we have 6 different divisions, the patrol division or our police services division being one of the 6. All 6 divisions do serve all of Anoka County because the contract, our police services, is primarily the north end of the county. Obviously, that's where the bulk of our radio calls are for, and so the majority of the backup provided by those countywide cars is on the north end, but it's not uncommon for us at all to be at community events in the south end, or if there's a large-scale event, our deputies will be down there. It's kind of a trade-off because conversely, our detectives, our civil unit, our SWAT team, a lot of those K-9, a lot of those services tend to be much busier on the south end of the county than on the north end.
Sure.
So everybody gets a piece of the pie, it just sometimes looks a little different.
Okay. And my last question is maybe more a question for Jack is, as opposed to our current contract, what's the increase in this proposed contract?
This contract is less than 2% over last year,
Okay. All right.
which is lower than the cost of inflation.
Right, right. Okay, any questions from council?
I have a question and a comment, and I'll start with my comment. I just want to thank you and the officers for the service they provide to our city. It's totally appreciated. Officer Shelley's reports every month, it just blows my mind, so I appreciate everything you do. But I do
Thank
have
you.
a question. As our population increases, will that require an increase in a deputy in the future, or will it pretty much stay the same because of our size?
Great question. So you have, well, the largest city in the county, square mileage. As the population increases, it won't necessarily affect your contract. One of the strongest measurements for us is the calls for service. And so, again, we've been fairly fortunate as other communities around you continue to see increased calls and increased problems. Several other communities around us, I don't get to have such a pleasant interaction because many of them are being presented with required contract expansions. So I kind of breathed a sigh of relief walking in tonight saying, status quo, we are keeping the cost down where we are able to. And so as your calls haven't increased, that's really the key factor in determining our coverage in order to maintain, again, those proactive times. And so as long as we're able to keep the calls down and keep peace within the city, we're in a good place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from council?
In the past year or two, is there any new programs that you've started or any new technology that you've brought in to help police services?
How much time do I have? Yes. So obviously COVID was a challenge for all of us in a whole wide variety of ways. Some of the new programs that we've rolled out, some of them we had to push pause, just like the rest of the world kind of went on pause. But we created the Citizens Academy for the first time. I think that was, I'm losing my track here now, but I believe that was about 2 years ago. We've run 2 cycles of that. We, as you know, we've established the cast fishing event was one of the things. We continue to do our open houses, the other new programs, and you might have to help me out, Commander, because I've had a long day. I apologize. Oh, yes. So some of the new other initiatives. I'm kind of a technology guy. If we can improve efficiencies, then it's about trying to make sure, again, if it improves efficiencies and enhances safety, I'm going to explore these things. And I've been fortunate to be on the executive committee for the Minnesota Sheriffs and for the National Sheriff's Association. So I get to see and hear a lot of what's working, what's trending, what doesn't work, what other agencies have tried, and what's failed miserably. And so we try to make sure that we not just create programs, but we do them in a way, again, that exceeds expectations. And one example would be the UAS program. We were the first in the state of Minnesota to have our drone program fully accredited and licensed through the FAA, excuse me, for national, even nighttime flights. My charge to our patrol commander, create this program and be an example for others to follow on how to do it, not what lessons were learned as a result of mistakes. And so we always embrace model policies, we embrace model practices. Excuse me. As one example, we've also implemented retinal scanning in the jail. It's 10 times more secure than fingerprints as we're moving inmates back and forth, cuts down on accidental releases as people pose themselves off as someone else who might look similarly. And I can tell you other jails across the country do make those accidental releases pretty regularly. We don't. I'm proud of that. There's been, we were the first in the state also to have a body scanner within the jail. We identified drugs and narcotics and weapons and cell phones and other things being, we'll use the word secreted into our jail. Use your imagination. It's a wild world we're living in. And this just obviously creates safety issues, not just for the inmates, but for staff as well. So after 3 years of lobbying at legislature to allow us, the prisons were allowed to and airports were allowed to, but jails weren't. After 3 years of lobbying, we were able to successfully change that law. And we were the first in the state to have that program. And I could give many more examples. I'm proud to say we probably have 8 or 9 programs over the last many years of being first in the state and setting the bar for others to follow.
Okay. Anything else from council? Any questions from the audience? You got our sheriff at a podium, so. Happens about once a year, so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I was just, maybe it's more specific to like general reporting, but like what areas, since we are so expansive in East Bethel, are there general like pockets that you do see the majority of those calls in that like the low to little bit in other areas of East Bethel?
The shortest way to explain that is where the people are is where the calls are. And that holds true everywhere. Wherever people are more tightly packed, not only does it tend to generate more calls, but it also tends to generate more tension. And so, you know, in a higher populated area, the domestics are going to be up. Sometimes the assaults are up. Even the parks in the summertime, the activity tends to be increased because maybe they're drinking, maybe it's hot, and maybe the better judgment has been left back in the home or in the trunk of the car. But those are the kind of places where we're seeing it.
Okay. Well, Sheriff Stewart, thank you for being here tonight. And
Thank you.
Thank you so
very much. Appreciate it. If you think of any questions later, you know where to find me. Thank you.
now Commander Orlando with our monthly report. Good evening.
Good evening. I hate following his act because he's so good. But here I have for you the custodial arrests and significant events for June. First is a possession of fifth-degree controlled substance. Deputy Jacobson conducted a traffic stop on a vehicle for speeding. The driver advised he was going to his friend's house, which was the opposite way of where he had turned. The driver was very fidgety and could not sit still. The driver was exhibiting mood swings where he went from being cooperative to uncooperative. The passenger in the car spoke with Deputy Lynch and advised there was methamphetamine and a pipe in the vehicle. Deputy Jacobson did locate a small Ziploc bag with a white crystal-like substance that tested positive for methamphetamine in a backpack in the vehicle. The backpack did have mail addressed to the driver along with the title of the vehicle. Deputy Jacobson did take the driver into custody and transported to jail. Possession of fifth-degree controlled substance. Deputy Lynch was traveling on Highway 65 and noted that traffic had backed up in the left lane due to a vehicle traveling at slow speeds. He was able to get behind the vehicle and noted the speed to be 43 miles per hour in a 65 mile per hour zone. He ran the plate and the registered owner showed no valid driver's license. Deputy Lynch stopped the vehicle and upon approaching saw a meth pipe and plastic baggie sitting on the floor next to the driver's right foot. Deputy Lynch took custody of the male and secured him in his squad. The contents of the plastic baggie tested positive for methamphetamine. The suspect advised he had just bought the van and he did not know where the drugs had come from. The male was transported to jail. And then we had another scam, which we seem to have an inordinate number of those happening every month. A female came to the sheriff's office to report she had received a check in the mail for $2,400 with instructions to go to buy Walmart gift cards and a list of instructions on how she should rate her interactions with employees. We've seen this before. The instructions were for her to purchase $2,000 worth of gift cards and she would earn the excess for her work. The female did deposit the check into her account, at which time, luckily, she was notified that the check was fraudulent. She did not purchase any gift cards and instead turned the information over to our office. The company that had sent her this was listed as DNT Services, and the female did not end up being out any money, but unfortunately there's many times where people do succumb to this and they end up buying these gift cards, either taking photos of them or contacting somebody, reading the numbers off of them, and then when the check gets returned to her bank as counterfeit or stolen or a forgery, unfortunately, then that person is out thousands of dollars. So I don't know how we can make people more aware of, if it seems to be too easy to make that kind of money, don't do it, or look into it further before you do it. But that is, that's all the things that happened this past month.
Significant things, I'm sure other things
Significant.
happened too.
We've had lots of calls at different places, but not anything worthy of a
Any,
report.
any questions for Commander Orlando tonight from council?
I don't have any questions, I just have a comment. You know, I get that weekly update every week from Lauren.
Yes.
And you're talking scams. It seems like there's more and more and more scams every week. I mean, Social Security, IRS, everything. It's just,
Well, and I think too with COVID and how everything kind of got shut down and a lot of processes changed, that opened up a whole new world of scams that could happen. And unfortunately, a lot of time, you know, the elderly or people who might be lonely fall victim to these. So, you know, we do what we can to try and get the word out about it, but it's sad.
I have a question related to Coon Lake. In previous years, I live on a lake, and usually we see the sheriff deputies on a lake fairly often. And this year I haven't, just maybe me, but I really haven't seen any deputies on a lake. Is the water patrol changed at all, or?
Well, right now, our office, we are running a little bit short on deputies on the road.
Okay.
So they may have been taken off of our normal recreational unit and assigned back to work the road a little bit more than what we've been used to in the past. I'll let the sheriff speak to this.
I was just going to expand, you're spot on, Mr. Mayor, Council. Just kidding. The short answer is yes, we're struggling just like everybody else with staffing
Okay.
struggles, and so on top of that, there's ongoing civil unrest that isn't always that obvious. We've got some folks assisting sheriffs in other parts of the state, as an example, and going through a lot of our own staffing struggles. Again, right now, just in our patrol division, we're short many positions. Sure. And so as we go through the hiring processes, it's not uncommon for us to have to restructure our non-priority coverage.
Okay.
We certainly know it is a priority, but it's not as essential as having the squads in.
Yeah, I bring it up not from the aspect of, you know, like there's a need or seen a need. It's just we've seen them in the past, and especially on the busier weekends and on Coon Lake, and it's just it's not a habit. We see it, you know, when you see an officer through a neighborhood, see an officer on a lake, you know, and I just thought maybe I was unlucky in not seeing them this year. So
No, I wish that were the case. I think it is some of the staffing struggles. Boy. And part of the reality too, and I can't explain it, if somebody figures it out, let me know, is generational. Quite honestly, even when we're running short, we'll post overtime. We want people to be out there, so we'll post some overtime shifts here and there, and people don't want to work them. So, you know, I was of the mindset when I first started, you'd let me stay at work and pay me more to stay, and so I was all over it. But it's a different generation, and it's a little harder to get all those shifts covered.
yeah, we could have a long discussion about that. And
Give me a call.
I totally agree with you too. So, hey, anything else for the sheriff's department tonight?
How was the 4th of July? Not personally, but for the city.
4th of July, my understanding is we had a lot of fireworks complaints, as is normal for that time of the year, but we didn't have anything bad happen during the 4th. Nobody that I know of,
I think we
although
had one
Mark
small
made,
grass fire.
I think they had one small grass fire
That's what we heard.
at Thielen, but it
well,
wasn't very big.
to me, a grass fire, that's a fire department thing. So
Someone else takes
I
care
leave
of
that
that,
for
right?
Mark. But yeah, I think it was a relatively uneventful weekend for the city, so.
Good.
Yeah,
Good. All right. Shelley, thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
On to item 4B, the fire department monthly report. Chief Ducharme.
Good evening, Mayor,
Evening.
Council, and citizens. So, this is the report for June of 2021, and last month, the fire department answered 81 total calls. 57 of those calls were medicals, 4 car crashes, 3 alarms, 3 burning smoke complaints, which that tells me that our citizens are listening and being careful. We had 3 fires, and they were grass fires in the city, and then we answered also 3 mutual aid fire calls. So let me talk about burning first, if I could. Right now, we're in a situation where burning restrictions are changing daily. For example, today, the DNR was allowing us to issue permits. That could change tomorrow. And the reason why is because it is so tinder dry. I talk a lot about after an inch of rain, the fire hazard of what we call 1-hour fuels. And that's the grasses that got wet, and then it only takes them an hour to dry out and start burning. And I give you, I was at an excellent example last week where the side of a hill at a family's home actually caught fire, and it was green grass that burned and got in the woods and things like that. So be very careful. As of right now, as I say, the DNR is changing it daily because of our drought situation. I think you might talk about that later in the meeting. So be aware, if you're coming to get a burning permit, that could change. You might get a phone call saying, you know, we're going to have to shut you down. You won't be able to burn. And that's because of, we don't know what the DNR is going to tell us to do tomorrow. I can tell you this, that if you go on, if you were to Google MN, Minnesota DNR, fire, you'll actually get a map of a current map, and the DNR changes that daily of where the fire burning restrictions are. So just a heads up on that. Another item is our fire inspector position has been posted. It's been posted for the past 3 weeks, and that'll close on Thursday at 3 p.m. We've gotten a handful of applications so far, but that's not unusual that we'll get all the applications, or the majority of them, at the time of the deadline. So I'll report on that as we go along. National Night Out's coming up, and that'll be August 3rd, Tuesday, that first Tuesday of August. If anybody's having a neighborhood party, you can actually go on the, oh, they're gone. You can actually go on the Sheriff's Department website. Their crime prevention people are the ones that will post another site that you can go and register your parties at. And then as the fire department, we'll have a couple crews out there, and we'll try to hit, if not all of the parties, as many as we can. One other thing is that every year fire departments are reimbursed by the Minnesota Board of Firefighter Training and Education. And we did get our first installment of reimbursement for the fire training that we go and pay for in the amount of about $9,300. And I think there's some more money coming because they're going to go through a reallocation.
How'd that fit with our budget?
We're right on.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, we're right on, so.
So we expected that. Okay.
Right. So, any questions?
On the burning permits?
Yes.
You talk about things changing. So what happens if City Hall has issued a burning permit, which is 3 days,
Yes.
and the next day there's a fire ban?
We call them.
We do notify
Yeah,
those
yeah,
residents,
just
okay,
Cindy will call those people.
okay, okay.
So,
Because not everyone's gonna know when these things happen, so.
and we've had this discussion, Mayor, before on I don't know when it's going to happen, but there will be a change, could be a year, 2 years, it could be, within 6 months that instead of coming up here to do permits, you'll be doing them online.
Yep.
So, and that's coming. Finally, by the way, we're running 20% ahead of last year's call volume. Okay, so, and if, for our department, that's huge. So we're at a point where, some weeks we're really stressing out our personnel. So, and that's not to mean that we don't want people to call us on medical calls. We're more than happy to go to those and do our profession. But, just a heads up.
And how does that relate to like other communities in the area? They're seeing increases as well?
They have. Our neighbors to the west of us, Oak Grove, they're looking at about a 12 to 15% increase. To the east, Linwood was talking about the same. So, I know we had a question on where, most of the calls are, and it's true, it's where the people live. So, your higher populations, that's our
Okay.
main cause.
Other question from council?
Is there a common denominator in that increase in calls? Is it lack of safety awareness or something that, some kind of prevention?
Well, you got to remember, of all of our calls, we answer 67 to 70% of those calls are medical related. So it's just that a lot of people are getting sick. We have a little change in the population going on in East Bethel. A lot of people have gray hair like I do, and so that and that's not to mean that's where all the increases are, but the medical calls have increased along and then along with car crashes and everything else. So.
Thank you.
And the city's getting bigger, we've got more people, and so.
Mark, is there anything in the variant for COVID? I know last week you guys got called to a place with 3 people. Is it still going up in East Bethel?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's not the only calls that we've had with multiple people.
No, but I mean,
Here's what's different between our calls now for COVID and our calls for COVID a year ago, okay? A year ago, you would have one person sick in a household. Now it's not uncommon to have the whole household sick. So you end up going and you've got 3, 4 people that have tested positive. So that's what we're seeing now. We've seen that on multiple calls.
so you're not going to change anything the way you do right now?
Not right now, but I can tell you Deputy Chief Anderson and myself are watching the numbers really close.
Okay.
And actually over the weekend, we had a little discussion also on the phone. So we're watching the numbers
Okay.
and seeing which way they're trending.
Okay. Anything else for Chief? Any questions from the audience?
Chief, I have a question. When I looked at the report, there's 1, if not 2, medical calls at the same address, like a week apart. One's on Davenport, I forget what the other one was. Is that something that?
That's not unusual.
Is it not unusual?
Yeah, and let me tell you why. We might have somebody who suffered a medical emergency, and they spent a couple days in the hospital, and they were released, and they got home, and they've been recovering, and they've had a setback, and they'll call us. They'll call 911 for help. It's not unusual to see that.
And we've asked that question in the past too, in terms of
Yeah.
how we provide services, so it's a good question. Anything else? All right, Chief,
All right.
thank you.
Thank
See you at
you.
National
Thank you.
Night Out.
Item 4C, potential dangerous dog hearing, Samantha Dwyer. Jack?
Yes, this hearing is to determine if a potentially dangerous dog determination by the city administrator to Samantha Dwyer should be sustained, modified, or removed.
Jack, if I can interrupt, I'll be abstaining from this discussion and any voting on it.
Thank you, Brian. The request for the hearing relates to an incident that occurred on May 21st, 2021. The Anoka County Sheriff's Office reported that 2 dogs owned by Mrs. Dwyer injured Mrs. Metelsky in the public right-of-way near 24338 Polk Street Northeast. Mrs. Dwyer's dogs were not licensed at the time of the incident, but were licensed on June 1st, 2021. The dogs have both been current on their rabies vaccination. A potentially dangerous dog means any dog that, when unprovoked, inflicts bites on human or domestic animals on public or private property, or when unprovoked chases or approaches a person, including a person on a bicycle, upon the street, sidewalks, or any public or private property other than the dog owners, in an apparent attitude of attack, or has a known propensity, tendency, or disposition to attack unprovoked, causing injury or otherwise threatening the safety of humans or domestic animals. The owner has submitted a written request to appeal the decision of the potentially dangerous dog declaration. Pursuant to City Code Chapter 10, Article 2, Dogs, Section 1072, an animal owner is allowed to contest the potentially dangerous dog determination. City Council, pursuant to Section 1072, has several options regarding this matter. Number 1 is to conduct the hearing, allowing the owner to present reasons why the potentially dangerous dog determination should be removed. 2, if the potentially dangerous dog determination is sustained, identify the action to be taken. And 3, if the potentially dangerous dog determination is not sustained, make a determination that the animal is to be released without further action from or by City Council. At this time, City staff recommends that the hearing for the potentially dangerous dog declaration be heard by the council.
Okay, with that, I'll open up the dangerous dog hearing. If any person is interested, please come to the podium and state your name and address.
Is that me then, Samantha Blair?
If you're part of this, yes.
I also have some people that would like to speak on my dog's behalf as well.
If you can state your name and address
Yep,
first.
Samantha Dwyer, 24338 Polk Street Northeast.
And
East
before you start, can I ask you to pull the microphone down a little bit? There we go.
Better? Okay. All right, so first of all, I have a copy of the police report because I called the sheriff's office today just to verify that there was no dangerous dog or aggressive dog report written up, and Deputy Rockets did not write one. He did not think that the dogs needed to be evaluated for danger, and according to what she reported, was not what my children and I witnessed. What we saw was that she was walking her dog across the street. My daughter accidentally let her, and I say puppies because they're 15 months old, let her puppies out, and they got away from her. Since then, we have put up a physical fence around our backyard. They got away from her, they ran over, she picked up her dog, which caused our dogs to jump up. And then my kids went and grabbed the dogs and brought them back. They did not pin her against a vehicle, and most certainly, she did not have to roll away to get away from them. I also have many letters here from neighbors and my vet and our boarder, all stating that the dogs have never shown aggressive behavior and have never been dangerous. I don't know if you'd like me to pass these around.
Yeah, if you'd like.
Okay. So I have 4 children that are 13, 12, 5, and 2, and they climb all over these dogs. They're Newfoundlands, so they are big by nature. They're still learning how to fit into their big bodies. So, and we have lined up training for them, and anybody knows, if you know Newfies, they're very gentle dogs, but they are big. You know, that I won't deny, they are big. And we're working on the jumping. We've set up a training, for that purpose. But they did not attack her, and they did certainly not mean it that way. And I have a neighbor that has been around our dogs since we brought them home that would like to speak. And then Tanya, I watch her children, and she trusts my dogs around her children. They're 18 months and twin 7-year-olds. So they would like to speak
Okay.
on their behalf, if that's
Sure.
all right.
Yeah, yes it is. Are you finished?
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
great, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Tanya McCall. Do I need to state my
Address, truth, please.
21328 Eveleth Street Northeast, East Bethel.
Okay, thank you.
Samantha here watches my 3 kids 1 to 2 days a week when I am at work. And I have twin 7-year-olds and a 16-month-old. And I have never felt threatened by these dogs, and when I told my 7-year-olds that I was coming here tonight because someone thought that the dogs were mean, they actually wanted to come and tell you themselves that they were not, but it's close to their bedtime, so I wouldn't let them. And then my 1-year-old is still learning how to be gentle and thinks that their tongues are the funnest things in the world, and will literally just reach in their mouth and play with their tongues and hang on them. And they literally just sit there and let her do it. So there is no bad bone in these dogs' bodies. I will say that if they're guilty of something, it's probably just slobbering on her a little bit, which I'm sure if she really wanted Sammy to do her laundry to wash that slobber off, she very well would. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Lynn Heisey, and I am the neighbor that lives to the south of the Dwyer family.
Could you state your address though?
Yes, 24320 Polk Street Northeast.
Great, thank you.
I have watched these puppies, and they are puppies still, since they were 8 weeks old. And Newfoundlands, if anybody has any clue of animal behavior, dogs do not mature until they're at least 2 years old. These are puppies. They're not dangerous dogs. Those dogs have I have never seen them show any aggression toward anybody. I mean, we live right next door to them. They love to come over and visit and drool and do all the things that puppies do. Now, both my husband and I have been in animal rescue for the last 10 years, and we have a pretty good idea of animal behavior. And I've seen the best and I've seen the worst in foster care. And an animal who is trained to be mean will be mean. These dogs are not being trained to be mean. They're learning how to fit into their huge bodies. If anything, they'll drool you to death. And they're just big babies. And it's no different than a Chihuahua. To be honest with you, a Chihuahua is far more dangerous than any Newfoundland, because a Chihuahua thinks they're a big dog, and they're not, and they will react as such. Now, a Newfie, they think they're a little dog. They're puppies, for goodness sake. You know, puppies are puppies. And for somebody to come and say that these puppies are dangerous, they got a few screws loose, I'm sorry. But we shouldn't have to be here discussing this. We really shouldn't. And it infuriates me to no end that we're even having to have this discussion, especially over these little dogs, these big dogs, I should say. You know, they're learning how to mind their manners. The Dwyers are working with them on how to mind their manners. They've taken them to dog obedience training, and they're constantly working with them. They have a fenced-in yard now, and you know, they see David and I over there, and they want to come visit. And all that they want to do, they just wiggle all over the place. You know, there's no way that these dogs are dangerous. And for you folks to say otherwise or to rule otherwise would be a very, very large travesty. Those children that are in that house will be devastated. Not only them, but we will be too. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also to clarify, before we had an electric fence and that was.
I'm sorry, can you come up to this microphone, please?
Just to clarify, before we had an electric fence and that wasn't working, so we put up a physical fence. Their fur was too thick for the collars for the electric fence. We had an
And when
electric,
did you put up the physical fence?
right after this happened, we put up the physical one because the electric wasn't working.
Okay.
Because they
In
had the.
response to what happened?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, because they still got loose from my daughter and they weren't responding to the vibrating or the shocking of their fur is just too thick. So that's why we put up the
Okay.
physical fence right after that.
Okay,
So,
that's something to consider too.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Yes. If you could state your name and address for us, please.
Barbara Matelski, 1076 244th Avenue, Northeast in East Bethel.
Okay, thank you.
And on May 21st, which was a Friday around 4:15, I was walking my 9.5-pound Maltese dog. I was on the sidewalk, and there was a parked car, and these two Newfoundlands, which they call puppies, are all of about 130 pounds apiece. And they came from the front of the parked car and went after my dog. I immediately picked up the dog. I received several scratches to my arm. I turned, tried to go the other way. I put my dog in the air. I saw the owner, who was in the home at the time, remained in the home at the time, and I was yelling and screaming, "Get your dogs." These two dogs had pinned me. I also submitted pictures to Jack Davis, and my understanding from Jack Davis when I contacted him that the police report was submitted, and these two dogs were on my back, and a young girl was set out, I believe it's her stepdaughter, I'm not quite sure, to try to maintain the dog and could not. At no time did the owner come out. My dog was squealing, screeching, and two neighbors were down the way, and they asked if I was okay. I could tell you my heart was pumping like no tomorrow, and I called the sheriff because this is the third incident with these dogs. And last fall, they were puppies, and they were probably about 60, 70 pounds then. I was across the street. I had to hide behind a vehicle, and these two dogs were on my back. The owner was not anywhere in sight. I believe it was the first week of school. And I asked her to get her dogs. I was hiding behind a truck, and she said they don't know their names. The second incident was on Super Bowl Sunday, February 7th. I thought someone was going to break into my home, to find out that the two dogs had scratched my siding, urinated on my house, knocked down the snow, trampling through my yard, trying to get into the house. As far as these dogs having no other incidences after the May 21st incident, those dogs were at large. Several neighbors approached me. One even told me that her pit bull was attacked by these two dogs, and her pit bulls became submissive. If they, excuse me, I have the podium.
Did you report it?
And so I'm speaking to council.
Continue.
Okay, so dogs, Newfoundlands, yes, are supposed to be very docile creatures, but if they're not trained correctly when they're puppies, they become aggressive and dominant, and especially two in packs. against humans and small prey. And I have addresses of other people. I don't have their statements of these dogs being at large all the way. And even one put it on Facebook, "Are these your dogs?" And the common excuse is, "My kids let them out." And as far as the lady that was up here that lives next door, another neighbor told me that she had put on Facebook that these two large dogs had let her dog out and was looking for her dog, and that was on Facebook.
That's a lie.
So if you have any other questions,
Is there any questions for Barb tonight?
Jack, was the city council able to view those pictures?
They were sent the photographs.
Yeah, we have the photographs,
Okay.
which are scratch marks on your arms, correct?
Yes, on my back,
In your back, okay,
and they did become black and blue.
okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Can I add something?
Yeah, if you'd like, come up to the microphone, please.
So since she's bringing up things that I was not aware that I reported, and I can verify that they have not left my yard since
Well,
the 21st.
let's do this. Let's try to focus on the incident at hand.
Okay, yep,
Okay.
that's fine with me.
Okay.
That's what we're here for, and that's what I stuck to.
Okay, okay.
Are there questions you have for me about it?
Any questions for dog owner? No, guess not.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone else interested in this matter tonight? If not, we'll close the hearing and bring the discussion to council. First question, there wasn't a bite, correct?
Correct.
I think everyone, and the deputy didn't report it as a dog bite. He reported it as a
He reported
loose
his
dog.
dogs running loose because
Dogs
there
running
was no bite.
Okay. And then when you read the report, it was, as the city administrators, you made a determination.
I made the determination because of the situation. It's a densely populated neighborhood. I thought the council should hear this to listen to it, and it does comply with the number 2 under the potentially dangerous dog. So it could be considered that they were regarded in an apparent attitude of attack by the victim, or it could be that they're just puppies playing. So that's something we need to make a determination on tonight.
Okay, I kind of thought that, so. Questions from council?
I don't have a question, but I could state an opinion.
Yeah.
Talking to your mic.
Microphone, yeah.
Sorry. My opinion is that they're puppies and they wanted to play with that other dog. I know several of my family members have these Newfoundland dogs, and they are gentle, but as puppies, they like to play and they do jump. My opinion is that this dog owner is responsible. Their children let it out. It was a mistake. It was an accident. They did make some effort and put a fence up, and the dogs have not been off their property. I think if there have been previous problems, they should have been reported, so we have no record of anything previous. I think these are responsible dog owners, and I do not think this should be considered a dangerous dog. The only thing I would have considered is asking them to put up a fence, because I know the shot collars do not work very well on Newfoundlands. So, and they did that, so I think, and they're taking the dogs to training. They are big dogs and they do jump, and they didn't scratch this person on purpose. They scratched because they have nails and they wanted to play with that puppy. And when she held it up, it was like holding up a ball, it wasn't a vicious, dangerous situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think, this is a bit unique, but I think the fact that Jat brought this to us, I think is right, because, really there's two things going on here. One, these are large dogs, and I know how large dog puppies can get. And if for the owner, it's one thing, but if they're loose and there's somebody on the street that's more vulnerable that can't manage those dogs, things they can get knocked down. People can get knocked down, and in this case, it was scratches. You know, another case, it could be, you know, literally getting knocked down and hitting someone's head. It wasn't their fault, it was the dog's fault, and they weren't intending to do that at all. I mean, I think that's clear. But the fact that they were loose and caused injury, I think justifies bringing it here. So, and I agree, I wouldn't characterize it as a dangerous dog. It's just, you know, it's the big puppies, you know, they're hard to deal with. Personally, I think the fact that the dog owner immediately put up a fence and fenced in the dogs, and I assume you're keeping them in the fence. And, yeah, because you've been cited for loose dogs.
We paid it, and when the officer came there, I said, yes, they were out, that was our fault, my daughter said, let them out, I paid it.
Yeah, so, I mean, there was a violation that occurred, and the dog owner is making amends to correct that, which is what we'd like to see. Anyone else? I'm sorry? We've closed the hearing, so unless there's some,
I want to say it was brought to Mr. Mundell's attention when they were in my yard, and he did go over and speak to them at that time. So it was reported, not Brian Jr., but Brian Mundell Sr.
okay, and I'll say too that I've been contacted in the past by you when this has occurred, so I knew about it, and we talked about how to deal with that, so.
They weren't playing with my puppy, they were biting him, and they were not biting
Okay.
the dog.
My comment is, I've had, when my daughter lived at home, she has a Chihuahua, and and my dog is a Black Lab German Shepherd mix. And yes, the little dogs think that they are humongous. And, you know, there's a big difference between, you know, a little dog jumping on you versus a big dog jumping on you. And, you know, my large dog is trained quite well. And if I'm out of town or whatnot, and I come home and he's extremely excited to see me, he jumps up on me, and I mean, I can't tell you how many scratches I have from, you know, from nails. And I do know that, you know, the larger dogs do like to play with the smaller dogs, and they do tend to think that they are toys, something to play with. So my opinion is, I'm sorry you got hurt, but I don't agree that the dog should be deemed dangerous, and I thank you for putting the fence up.
The fence consists of pallets and makeshift. I think the city should really go out and check it.
I think the fact that the dog owners put in a fence, if he had done that, I think I'd be making a different motion right now, but I'm gonna make a motion that we do not uphold the potential dangerous dog designation based on the fact that the dog owner has made provisions to contain the dog, which would have been one of our requirements. The dog's also been licensed, and it's been shown to have the rabies vaccinations, and those are the important things. I will say with the motion, actually not part of the motion, is that if we come back again for a situation like this, I think we'll have a different discussion. So it's make sure they stay within their fenced yard. So that's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I think Suzanne seconded first there. Further discussion? Hearing none. To the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. The dangerous dog designation is not upheld. So thank you all for being here. So. Okay, on to item 4D, is a public hearing for Deerwood Lane vacation right-of-way, Pine Grove Estates. Jack. Where's Seth?
So tonight we have the public hearing for the consideration of a vacation of a portion of the Deerwood Lane right-of-way. This is located on the southern end of the city where the city of East Bethel abuts Sam Lake. Here we have Briarwood. And then here's the properties that it will affect. So it's this portion right here of Deerwood. So a little bit of background on it. Back in August of 1971, Pine Grove Estates was platted. So this is the plat of Pine Grove Estates. In December of, as part of the plat, Deerwood Lane heading west was a cul-de-sac. So if you show where I have it highlighted here in orange, this is where it was a cul-de-sac heading westerly. In December of 1999, the extension of Deerwood Lane was approved to connect to Briarwood Creek Plat. So this street here, Deerwood Lane, was approved to go to the west to connect with the Briar Creek Plat. Once Deerwood Lane was extended, what we call the bubbles of the cul-de-sac were not vacated. So just show here on this, here's the Deerwood Lane heading west, and then typically you have your bubble here, your cul-de-sac, and you have these bubbles that are on the side. Typically, we'll vacate those easements or those right-of-ways when roads are extended, when the cul-de-sac is no longer needed. However, at that time, back in 1999, these areas were not vacated, so right now they are still known as the public right-of-way. So it is past and current practice to vacate these bubble portions of the cul-de-sacs, again, once the cul-de-sacs become obsolete because the street is extended. So this was brought to the attention of city staff by the homeowner of 2001 Deerwood Lane. The homeowner wants to sell the house. However, the banks will not provide financing because the existing well is located within the city right-of-way, or what would have been the cul-de-sac bubble. This well was installed, I looked through the records, it was sometime in between 1977 and 1979. And here's the survey of the property showing that the well is in fact in the right-of-way. So the city engineer, the public works manager, and myself reviewed the issue and proposed that the vacation of that portion of the city right-of-way, as described as part of the attachments in the attached resolution. We do support it for the following reasons. One, in the past and current practices, it is to vacate that portion of the cul-de-sacs once the street is extended. And the city of East Bethel does not have a vested interest in the keeping of the portion of the right-of-way, and the vacation of the right-of-way will correct the title work so the homeowner can sell the home located at 2001 Deerwood Lane. So again, just to reiterate, this is the areas that would be vacated. Here's Deerwood Lane. So on 2001 Deerwood, we have the right-of-way on this one. And then directly across the street from it at 2000 Deerwood Lane, we have right-of-way here that would need to be vacated. So at this time, staff is requesting the council to hold the public hearing and then also to consider the approval to vacate a portion of Deerwood Lane right-of-way with the conditions set forth in the attached resolution known as 2021-43.
Okay, thanks, Stephanie. With that, I will open a public hearing regarding the consideration of vacating a portion of Deerwood Lane right-of-way. If there's anyone here tonight on this matter who would like to speak, please come forward now. With that, we'll close the public hearing. Quick question, and you may have said this, are the asphalt ears still there, or was that removed?
No,
That-
they're not there according to the JS.
They're not there?
Yeah, they're
Okay,
not there.
Okay, so it's literally just the legal stuff we're dealing with, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-43, resolution approving the vacation of right-of-way for Deerwood Lane.
Second.
Motion made, second, discussion.
Stephanie, will this vacation be on both sides for the north property owner and the south one?
That is correct. It's on both properties.
Okay.
I have a question. Was this something common, where the well was put in the city right away? Is that something that's happened multiple times, or is this a rare, unusual circumstance?
I think this is pretty rare. I have not seen this one before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little shocked to see that. I don't know if I'd want my well that close to the road to start with, but
Right.
how it got permitted, but then he said the years, and it's like, things are done far differently back then, so. And the fact it's in the right of way, so that's odd in itself, so. Any other questions? Discussion? If not, all in favor to the motion on this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay, on to consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt tonight's consent agenda.
A second.
Motion made, second, discussion.
I'd like to pull E, G, and I, please.
I'd like to pull E.
Okay, we got that. And I'd like to pull B and D, boy and dog. Anything else? Okay, so we have A, C, F, H, and J, and K remaining. To the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Item B, Jack, this is the minutes for the public forum, both of them. And it was confusing because you read the titles, and the titles say city council meeting. Is that how we generally do our public forum minutes?
This is the first time we've had the
Okay.
public forum minutes on the council agenda.
I think that title needs to specify public forum rather than city
Okay.
council minutes, because it's going to get confusing down the road. And it says we met at 7 o'clock. We didn't meet at 7 o'clock. We meet at 6:45. So that would be for both minutes. And I'm fine if in the title, it just, like, we put an extra line in there, say, the public forum, and then correct it to 6:45.
Okay.
And that would be for both of them. Actually, the second one does say 6:45, so. And with that, I'll move to approve the public forum meeting minutes for June 14th and July 12th as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made, second. Discussion? Hearing none. To the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Item D is also mine, and it's related. It's the city council meeting minutes for July 12th. The kind of issue I see with that is the public forum minutes are also on those minutes, which should be a separate set of minutes. So I am just going to move that the public forum section of the regular city council meetings for July 12th be removed, and it starts off with 1.0 call of order. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made, second. Discussion. Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Item E, the private kennel license renewal. I think you both pulled that.
Suzanne.
Okay, I'll go first. So I want to bring up what Jim Smith was saying, that if this expired, then in my opinion, it should be a brand-new request for IUP and should be going to the planning commission because it's expired. And it's not just expired for a couple of months, it's expired for 2 years. So that's my first comment, and you guys, after I finish what I'm saying, somebody can comment on it, why I'm wrong or why I'm right. So does the city license for the kennel, or does the license come from someplace else?
The way the ordinance states, is that an IUP is required for the license, and I'm going to let our city attorney, Mr. Nelson, address that part of the issue.
Yeah, because I'm curious if the IUP, does that mean that's the license itself, or does she have to have a license and then get an IUP?
The IUP is essentially the license, the way it's been through past practice. So we haven't actually issued a license. We've issued the approval of the IUP, which gives them license privileges for that.
And with that, Mayor and council members, I note that in the rural residential district, private kennels are an accessory use. They're not an interim use. So this is something that should likely proceed under the licensure provision alone, because it doesn't relate to the property rights as defined under the zoning district. It is not an interim use. It's considered to be an accessory use of the property under the rural residential district. So while a private kennel license is required under the general ordinance, it doesn't appear to be a zoning matter at all.
So are you saying that this should be a conditional use rather than an interim use?
Neither. Mr. Mayor and council members, it should simply be a license that's granted under the general ordinance. It's not listed as a conditional use. It's not listed as an interim use in the zoning ordinance. You know, it's to a degree a bit of semantics, but because there's something that the city needs to issue for it, but it's not an interim use permit. So.
Okay, I see this thing broadening really big fast here. We've got many private kennel licenses throughout the city. Anyone that has more than 2 dogs, correct?
Correct.
So they have 3 or more, they're required to come in and get a private kennel license. So what I'm hearing from you, Chris, is that's really not how it should be?
It's based on the zoning district, on how it's graded for use. You know, for example, and it specifically says in there, if it's a commercial kennel license, an IUP is required. It says that in Article 10 of the ordinance. In this particular zoning district, rural residential, the one we're talking about, a private kennel is listed as an accessory use. So all the city needs to do is issue a license for the kennel.
So here's my real concern. What if somebody has 50 dogs?
Then they would be in violation of the license, and the license would be revoked.
Now I'm not following. I thought we had said they didn't need a license by the zoning.
They do need a license. They don't need an interim use permit. So an interim use permit's recorded on the property with the county, and it's considered to be, you know, a limited property right. The license is just a license from the city to operate in a certain manner.
And there'd be standards with that license that they would have to abide by.
And they're exactly laid out in the ordinance. It says what the standards are, and they're mandatory, and it also articulates the number of dogs you can have based on acreage.
Okay, so what we have in front of us right now is a renewal of an interim use permit.
And I don't know when the ordinance was amended, but there's no need to have an interim use permit to have a private kennel.
So do we have a license, a kennel license application process and issuance process then? Because we've been basically using the interim use permit process as that process.
That's correct, and the reason this has come up right now is that Chris and I had a discussion to review this item before the meeting, and he did some research on it and found out that the private kennel license was an accessory use in the rural residential zone. This is something that escaped the city since this has been implemented many, many years ago.
Well, for as long as I've been involved, it used to be a CUP, and then it changed to IUP at some point, but.
And then in certain districts, it might still be a CUP, and if it says you need a CUP, then you'd have to get a CUP, but in this particular district, it states it's an accessory use.
Do we think it's because we changed the language on the zoning?
The zoning was amended in 2010,
Right.
which is after the permit that we're talking about.
Right.
I haven't seen the specific language of the amendment, but it's certainly possible in that 2010 amendment, it was changed from a interim use to an accessory use.
So then the process of issuing private kennel license in general should have been revised back when the zoning language, because most of the
Yeah.
city's rural residential. I mean, so, I mean, there's kennel license in other zones, I know that, but for majority, it's gonna be,
And operationally, not to make a mountain out of a molehill, operationally speaking, it's not particularly different than an IUP. However, you know, an IUP has certain statutory requirements that have been referenced earlier tonight, and a license is just separate and apart from that.
According to the state statute, from what I understand, an IUP is temporary. It has an expiration date on it, correct?
Yes, an IUP typically has an expiration date.
Because hers expired on July 6th of 2019. And so I'm having a tough time wondering how we can renew an IUP that has
Well,
expired.
We wouldn't be renewing
We
an
wouldn't be doing an
IUP based
IUP.
on.
well, let's just pretend for a second we didn't have this whole discussion whether it's IUP or kennel license. Your question is, and I agree, I want to answer too, is if we have a IUP or CUP that lapsed, basically, and it wasn't renewed, what legally is the process then?
At that point, I would consider it a new IUP application. In this particular situation, it's my opinion that there's no IUP required. But at that point, if it's been, you know, expired for a matter of time, I wouldn't classify it as a renewal.
'Cause I ask that because we've had issues in somewhat recent years where, you know, business IUPs, you know, have expired and no one caught it, and then it was renewed once we knew it was.
And it's, you know, it's kind of the danger of operating with a lot of IUPs too, that, you know, these things might get missed.
Right.
When they need to be up for renewal, and really it's kind of incumbent upon
Okay.
the
So back to-
operator on the property.
So back to the current discussion of whether or not IUP is even appropriate for this.
And in my opinion, it isn't, because it's labeled as an accessory use and not an interim use in the rural residential district.
I have more information to add to it.
Okay.
So I was here when she had first gotten the IUP for her kennel. And I know the reason why she has her kennel, the IUP, is because she breeds cane corsos and she sells them.
Right.
So if you look at the definition of private kennel license or private kennel, it's just having 3 dogs or 2 or more dogs on your property.
Right.
And you're not profiting from those dogs. So that's, if I remember correctly from way back when, that's why she ended up getting the IUP, was because she was actually going to be selling the puppies and making money from the dogs. So private kennel is just having 2 or more dogs. And if you look at the definition, it says it's not conducting a business operation involving the dogs, whether for profit or nonprofit. She has her private kennel license. She has more of than the 2 dogs, the cane corsos, because she is a breeder.
Okay.
And so we had her get the IUP back then because she is selling dogs. She is
So-
making private, it's a business for her.
So was it called a private kennel license back then?
That I don't recall because I haven't been,
Because my question would be
Yeah.
is then, it seems like it should have been
We-
called a commercial license back then.
yeah, and we called it just an interim use permit.
And
In,
with that, it's not zoned commercial, it's rural residential.
Well,
so I
we,
don't-
It's not a
we put
commercial.
commercial businesses in residential, that's home businesses.
Yeah, and a commercial kennel is defined as any place where a person accepts dogs from the general public and keeps such dogs for the purpose of boarding. So she does not even meet the definition of a
So
commercial
it doesn't
kennel.
meet the definition of that either.
because in the East Bethel Article 2, Section 1019, selling puppies is against the private kennel permit. And she's selling,
Yeah, that's why, what I was saying, that's why it was an interim use permit back then, because she doesn't meet the definition of a private kennel.
Which likely
It's just
means-
anybody in the city that has more than 2 dogs has to get a private kennel license per our code.
Which,
But because she's breeding and selling and making money off the dogs. she
So,
gets
so,
to keep.
Chris has
what
been,
was,
Chris has been trying to say something.
I just wanted to say it was probably classified as a home occupation.
It
just
was
like
back then,
several
yes,
of the other
yes.
interim use permits that we have are classified as home occupations. That's what I want to say.
okay, so to try to clarify what I think you're saying, she didn't meet private where she would not need an IUP. She didn't meet commercial kennel, and so the purpose of an IUP is to do something slightly outside of the code and to have it approved with conditions. Is
That's
that
correct.
what
As a
you're
home
saying?
business is what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, Chris, if it was considered a home business, is it still, does it fall under the IUP then?
IUP is home occupations under the rural residential district. And the other ones that are still in effect are classified as home occupations with regard to this property.
Okay.
The reason why I bring it up is private kennel specifically is an accessory use, which is generally permitted with the issuance of that license.
Just a sidebar question. How many other properties do we think is going to fall into this change? How many
I don't.
private kennel licenses do we have out there, you think?
I'm gonna guess that we have less than 20 if we have that many. We haven't issued a lot of private kennel
I know we
licenses.
haven't had any lately, so.
No, it's not a huge number.
Most people with 2 dogs probably don't even know that you need a private kennel license.
So Chris, I mean, if this was a IUP for a home occupation business that needed a private kennel license, now where does that fall into?
It would fall issuing an IUP for home occupation with a condition being obtaining private kennel license.
Which is different than what she has right now for 10 dogs.
Apparently, it is different if it's been termed private kennel.
well, technically, right now, she doesn't have anything because it expired.
Lapsed or expired. I mean, that could be our fault too. So we've had many of those in the past, and as frustrating as it is, staff keeps missing these things, so it's.
It's not their job, it's the business.
Excuse me, keep, discussion's up here. I'm gonna move the table as to a future meeting, so, 'cause I think we need a clear direction from a legal perspective and staff on not just this one, but also how it affects other ones. And really, and I mean, we know the situation, we understand, I mean, she's had the dogs for, 19 years there, so I mean, we kind of know the physical aspect of what's going on. It's just that permitting aspect and how to get this corrected. And if we can get a flavor for how many other cleanups we're gonna have to do.
Stephanie, where do we stand with the 60-day rule on this?
That I would have to look, I know it's coming up very soon, so.
Was there an application that was made?
Yes, so I'll have to,
You can,
I'll get together an extension letter.
yeah, we can invoke a 60-day extension on that, and also if it is a private kennel determines an interim use permit is not required, then the 60-day rules are relevant because it's not a land use
It may
matter
not
anymore.
apply,
Yeah.
so, well, if you can bring it back in 2 weeks, and if that's enough time, particularly if there's a 60-day rule period. So I made a motion to table, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that item E from the consent agenda is tabled. Item G. I'm not sure who brought that up.
That's me. That's the access control system for the city. And I don't think it's necessary. I don't think we have any need to increase the security out here. We're so rural. We don't have the problems that they have in Minneapolis and Hennepin County. So I actually think it's a waste of money, and I don't think we need to spend the money on putting access control in our in this building.
Jack, what's that actually gonna be? Just these doors here in the back?
It'd be the doors to the offices here in City Hall.
Okay.
So it'd be on the door in the foyer, the two doors off this hall and lobby, and the door to the garage.
Yeah, you're restricting access to the public. I think that's just wrong.
We don't
No,
restrict-
that's absolutely necessary. Those are not public areas. That's city hall staff.
No.
No, these over here on the
These
side.
doors are right.
This is to the offices, not to the building.
But you can lock them from the other side. They've been locked. I haven't been able to get through just walk in there before. Somebody's always had to open
They
them
have,
for
but
me.
there's always a tendency for people to leave them unlocked. This would be a fob system where they lock automatically. You have to have the fob to enter. I will say one thing. People in East Bethel are the greatest people in the world, but we run into more and more issues, and this is common everywhere, about people that call up and either are very abusive to staff, they make implied threats to staff. We had an incident with a code enforcement issue a couple of months ago where one resident claimed that he was going to take matters into his own hands with another owner. These things come up all the time. You certainly see these things happening in places where you don't expect them to, and this is something that's proactive to protect the safety of city staff.
Does that system also provide a record of who goes in and out?
I'd have to double check on that, like our current alarm system does.
It does.
Because you got to enter a code.
It does.
with yeah.
And that's important too, because, it's been a long time since we had an issue like that, but, if there's a problem with someone coming in, an employee coming in at off hours and
Yeah.
doing something they shouldn't be, now they have record of when they came in the building, so.
And currently, we do that with our current alarm system, because you got to come in through, if the alarm's set, you come in through either this door over here, the garage door, so you have to enter your code, so it tracks who comes in and who leaves the building.
So this cost is, was it $6,000, $6,300?
$6,200, $6,240.
I think that's a small price to pay for better security, and it's the staff that work here. And if they don't feel like they have a comfortable, safe work environment, then we're not doing our job right either, so. And I remember that call of that citizen, and the sheriff notified you, right?
Correct.
The sheriff and council got notified about it too, so.
And there were 3 quotes obtained for this. And this one company, they actually do our monitoring at our water treatment plant. The highest quote was the one that does the security for the building altogether.
Okay.
We had hoped to be able to work with them, but there was enough difference in the price not to consider what they provided. But we are working with this Summit company. They provide all the monitoring for our water treatment plant.
Okay. I think we need a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion for item G on the consent agenda
To approve?
to approve. I'm not going to vote for it. I'm going to make the motion.
You can make the motion to approve, and you don't have to vote for it.
To approve, yes, I'm
Okay, is there,
sorry.
I just want to make sure it's clear.
I'll second.
10 seconds. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
That motion passes. Item I, declaration of surplus property for a fire department boat.
Yep, this is the boat. I've seen this boat down there. Well, I think it's a nice boat. I think boats tend to last forever. I'm I'm wondering how often this boat gets used.
I think this boat has never been used, but I'll let Mark Descharme comment on that. We got this through, we didn't do the DNR, and it's something we anticipated use of. It's taking up space in our building that we need for storage, so, Mark?
Thank you, Jack. The boat that we're asking to be declared surplus was purchased from the Minnesota DNR. Excuse me, it wasn't. Yes, it was through the their fire program. I think it originally came from the U.S. Wildlife. The boat itself was purchased by the city of East Bethel, I think, for $2,300, between $2,300 and $2,600. There was some shipping expenses in that. That replaced another boat that we had received from the Minnesota DNR, same fire program, that was a big Zodiac type inflatable and with two big twin motors.
I remember
Now,
that.
Getting back to your question, Counselor, that boat has never been used by us. And the reason why we're looking for the declaration is two things. First of all, the motor needs major work. It won't start right now to begin with. And it's more than just carburetors and gas and things like that. We think there's some other major issues. The second thing is, right now, we know that these type of things are going for a premium price. And as I said in my write-up, the thought is that we go and we sell this, and then we can take the next few months to decide what the needs are for the fire department, and then take a look at where we're going to go as far as a boat.
Exactly, because this, to me, it's a perfectly good boat. And you intend to, you said, or the packet said it needed, you guys need the space, yet there's also seems to be a plan to replace it. So if you replace it, you're still going to have the same issue with the space.
Yeah, we might not keep it there, though. We might look for other space, for it. Now, that boat was we do a capital equipment replacement plan. And as many of you know, for example, the big fire trucks, we plan those for a 30-year service life. The boat actually in 2022 is up for replacement in the plan. So this also gives us, without putting a lot of money into the repairs of the boat and giving us some extra room in that station, this is actually a really good time to get rid of it and then plan on what we're going to do. The plan, with the council input, might be not to have a boat, because the sheriff's department does provide that. Now, I know they're short-staffed right now, but they do. The water emergencies that we've had on Coon Lake, actually, it's been the residents that have met us at the landing and actually taken us out. And I think that's happened about 3 times over the past 5 years.
Well, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. The boat to me is a safety hazard, because with 2 people in gear, you're over the weight limit already. So you go out to save somebody, you can't bring anybody back in.
Right. The maximum rated, so OBC is the standard for boats, and their maximum rating on this particular one is 500 pounds after you put on the motor and normal equipment. So.
And 2 guys in gear is going to go easy over 500 pounds.
Well, we're not quite that
easy.
Yeah, I mean.
Close, close. But I mean, you can't bring anybody, you wouldn't be able to bring in an average person back in.
No.
You'd be over the 500-pound limit.
Right, and
I started a new discussion at fire hall.
Yeah, that's a whole different story.
You have to assign the smallest firefighters to it.
So, right. So actually what happens, we don't necessarily grab people and pull them inside, especially if they're injured. We stabilize and then use different methods to get them to shore, wrap them in blankets and things like that, and not necessarily pull them all the way over. But there's depending on the situation.
And this new boat that already showed me that it can take 8 guys, so it's definitely an improvement.
Yeah, and I know Artie has been looking, but, that's something that it's, we need to take the next couple months to really study. I'll guarantee you to the council, there's no one product that we're looking at or, wishing we could buy. Number one, we have to decide if we're going to be in the water rescue business, open water rescue business. And number two, then we have to figure out what our equipment should be. And then number three, we can put together a proposal for the council to look at. But we haven't even started that yet.
Does Ham Lake have a boat?
I don't think they do. I'm not sure.
I think obviously Coon Lake's the primary use of where it would be. But, it could be Cooper's Lake. It
Could be.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's Cooper's Lake, you're not going to get a big boat in Cooper's Lake
Right.
anyway. So if it's really Coon Lake that we're focusing on, it seemed to me that there should be a discussion between Columbus and Ham Lake and us, because from a property standpoint, I think we have a little more shoreline than they do, but they're not insignificant either, so.
Correct.
So when it gets to that point.
And
the other thing is, too, is training, too. You just can't send anyone out on a boat.
No.
So.
Right. And we do have firefighters that are highly experienced on, on boating and things like that. So, that helps, but it does take a lot of training. Just like when we train for hard water ice, ice rescue, that's a specialty that we do.
Okay. Any other discussion on this?
Yeah, did I answer your question, Counselor?
You did, and I just want to say you could probably get that motor fixed for $100 to $200 in Isani. We got
I think
50-something motor.
Yeah, and I wish I could get it fixed for 100 and 200, but I think it's going to be in the thousands.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think Counselor Harrington would tell you, I don't like to spend a lot of money, especially city money. I'm very careful with it. And in my opinion, that's not a good investment into that motor at this time.
I don't think we should vote to get rid of it yet if you guys have not decided, gone through that analysis of what your words, what you think you might need in the future. Until you do that, if you decide you might need a boat, then maybe we should bring this back. If you decide we're going to leave that up to the sheriff's department and you're not ever going to need a boat, then yeah, let's get rid of it. But if you haven't made that analysis and determination yet, this shouldn't even be at our packet yet.
Yeah. And I respect your statement there and your opinion. My expert advice, and I have a lot of experience with water rescue, my expert advice is that we take this boat, we decommission it right now, basically it's decommissioned, and then we take the next few months to talk about what we're going to do. And once again, we just got done selling the Kubota online. We ended up getting like $6,000 more than what we anticipated, because right now these type of things people are looking for. And then that gives us time for the market to settle down if we end up buying a new product as far as price-wise. And then it also gives us time to find out what our role is going to be in open water rescue. So my recommendation to the council, and I respect the council. But my recommendation to the council is that we declare that surplus along with the next item.
So is there any scenario where we would actually use our current boat?
No,
And the boat's not gonna get fixed.
no.
Well, even if it's fixed, it's,
Yeah,
the utility of it is not very good because we can't do rescue with it anyway.
Yeah, it hasn't been a good fit at all.
Okay.
And yes, motors are thousands to
Oh, yeah.
get fixed.
It's gonna be in the thousands.
But like I say, I have a great deal of respect for council and council people. I'm just giving you my recommendation.
Any further discussion? We need a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve item I on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made, second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion, or any opposed?
Aye.
Motion- You opposed?
I oppose.
Okay, motion passes. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Okay.
off. Okay, we're done with consent agenda items, no new business. Department reports. Our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor, and council members. Before you again tonight is the Midco cable franchise agreement. The public hearing was held at the last meeting of the council on this, and I know we discussed it in a preceding workshop. As you recall, Midco representatives were on site to talk about locations and build out and timelines, and we received the updated map from Midco regarding the location of cable and their discussion of plans for the future. As we've discussed previously, the franchise is somewhat similar to the previous franchise. There's been one change since this document was last before the council, and it relates to a provision under Section 7, which was the city administrator's suggestion at the previous meeting, stating that Midco should provide an annual update regarding where they're at on their build-out and an updated map. And so we discussed that, and that's been inserted in Section 7, parent 6. So that's in there, so we just need to request that every year, and we'll get an updated map and update from them. We had previous discussions about the franchise fee. Council indicated at this time to leave that at 5%. So that's been remaining there at 5%, and it can be revisited at any time by the council. And just generally updated the agreement to comport with present statute insurance provisions to reflect updated amounts and larger discussions around it have been had, and this agreement's ready for approval by the council.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I want to make a motion for approval of the Midco cable franchise agreement as exhibited in attachment 1.
I'll second.
Motion made, second. Discussion. I assume we're still going to have the discussion of the franchise fees when we get to the budget matter at work meeting?
I've recommended that as a discussion for the August work meeting.
Okay, good. So I'm okay with this. I'll vote for it, but I still don't like the franchise fee aspect of this. So.
I just want to say that I totally enjoyed having Midco representatives here. They were so thorough and so responsive.
Professional, yeah.
Very professional, and I totally appreciate that they answered all of our questions and and I really like their plan for finishing up or adding, I don't know what the word is, cables or
Underserved
service.
areas.
Yeah, serving the underserved areas, their plan. So I'm all in favor of this. The only issue I had is, I just mentioned to Jack, I didn't see an ordinance number on here, so I don't know if we need an ordinance number, but,
We do, and it'll be assigned if this is approved.
okay, thanks.
And the ordinance will come later? Or we, or
The ordinance is included in your
okay,
packet.
okay.
Yeah, it just didn't have a number on it, but since it has to be approved before you give it a number, that makes sense.
I'm sure they'd be willing to come out again, too.
I really enjoyed them.
Super nice people.
Yeah, I will reemphasize what Suzanne has. Midco has made some changes in their management locally, and the people that we deal with out of their office have been extremely responsive to any request that I've ever made to them, especially their office manager, Melissa Wolf. She has been top-notch and she'll respond back within the day when we send something in, so.
I've noticed that over the years, just dealing with customer service and technical stuff, that the company is maturing, so. Any other discussion? Then to the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes. On to city administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Town hall meeting. The fall town hall meeting has been held since 2005. Due to the COVID pandemic, there has not been a town hall meeting since November 5th, 2019. This meeting is generally held in November and is proposed for a date that doesn't conflict with any other municipal or school district meetings. Staff has reviewed and found there to be no conflicts with the evening meetings scheduled for ISD 15 and ISD 831 in November for the dates listed below. On Tuesday, November the 2nd is open. Tuesday, November the 3rd is open. Wednesday, November 3rd, Tuesday, November 16th, and Wednesday, November the 17th. And I don't know if anybody really attends. The Forest Lake School District has their meetings on the first and third Thursdays. One of the Thursdays in November is Thanksgiving, and there's an issue, I believe, with Thursday the 9th. But Thursdays could potentially be open, but it would conflict with the Forest Lake School District meeting.
And there's no planned elections?
No elections.
No school board stuff?
No, nothing this year.
I prefer Wednesdays. I have meetings every Tuesday, so.
I'd say November 3rd then.
I'm all in on, I'll make a motion to choose Wednesday, November 3rd for our next town hall meeting.
Second.
Motion made, second, discussion. Same format?
Same format unless you'd like to try something different.
I think it's worked in the past.
It's worked for 15, 20 years, 15, 16 years. So.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, to the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Next item.
Item 7G2, position proposal. City staff evaluates staffing needs and workflow delegation on an ongoing basis in order to ensure services are completed in the most effective and efficient way possible. After the most current evaluation was completed, it was determined there is a need for additional staff in the administration and finance departments. In order to alleviate immediate workflow issues, staff is proposing the City Council hire an accounting coordinator in 2022 and consider a communications coordinator position in 2023. These positions would reassign duties from the administrative assistant, the administrative coordinator, finance coordinator, and the finance director. The shift in duties would enable staff to better handle the additional workload volume that has been experienced due to increased development activities in the city. The accounting coordinator position is proposed to start at pay grade 5, depending on qualifications. The accounting coordinator would streamline the accounts receivable function within the finance department by combining all aspects of utility billing into one position and eliminating the fragmentation of duties that currently exist. In addition, this employee would process the daily deposit, right-of-way and cemetery invoices, assist with TIF coordination, and be available to assist the finance department with entry-level human resource tasks and audit preparation. Finally, this position would allow the finance department to cross-train on other tasks in order to build redundancy in their current systems. The communications coordinator position, which was discussed at our personnel committee meeting and also at a finance committee meeting, would consolidate all the media responsibilities under one employee. In addition to the media side of this position, this person would be able to undertake a number of special projects to assist the city administrator. Staff would like to note that the workload city staff has increased considerably over the past 10 years, and this work is being completed with one less staff member than employed by the city in the beginning of 2011. The budget impact of adding the accounting coordinator position was provided during the July 6th work session, with this position included in the preliminary 2022 budget, and the overall levy increase for this position was proposed to increase by 1.9%. Staff recommends that City Council consider approving the addition of the accounting coordinator position and include this cost in the 2022 budget discussions.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve addition of the accounting coordinator position and include this cost in the 2022 budget.
Is there a second? I will second it then. We already have this in the budget.
That's correct.
Correct, so we're not really, this is not adding to the budget, it's in our proposed budget already.
That's correct.
Okay. So I think that recommendation is a little misleading, but, can we start advertising this position before the actual budget year starts? Because we know what happens, you know, if we start in January, advertise in January, we're not gonna get anyone on board till April. you
That's
know?
correct. No, we could start, but the effective date of the start of the job then would be January 2nd.
Okay. So I'd hate to wait.
Yeah.
Because I know this is a big need for that department, so.
I guess the issue I have here, Jack, I've talked with some of the city staff here, and they feel that one person could do both jobs, and they were kind of shot down at this thing. I mean, if you can get by with one person instead of one person this year and another person, why can't one person take both jobs? You know, help out on both jobs.
I don't mean to be questioning that opinion, but I think the finance committee job is a job entirely by itself. Initially, you could probably do some of it, but that's one of the problems we have. We're so fragmented in some of our work assignments that people don't have time to do some of their tasks and put the time in to do them adequately.
Okay, I mean, I'm not trying to,
Yeah.
it just, you know, they said that if we got them one person, that, you know, they could do half the finance and half the communication. That's, you know.
And again, the communications coordinator is a recommendation that we wouldn't really discuss until next year. I think this one is probably the more critical of the two positions now, and they're going to be doing quite a few other things. We're going to have shortly another 120 customers doing water billings. Water billings eat up a lot of Jackie's time. It's not just processing the billing. You get calls every month asking questions about them, complaining about the bills that we try to address as quickly as possible and take care of those issues. Finance is an extremely important part of what we do here. One of the things that we always want to maintain is a clean audit and be able to account for every penny that we spend, be able to explain it, be totally transparent with it. So it's crucial to have the staff there to make sure that that happens.
I think my comment, Tim, is, and I know I'm going to hear it from accountants everywhere. I mean, these are two different roles, and accountants are good with numbers and aren't necessarily
Yeah.
good with communication. And I'll say engineers are that way too, just to defend myself. So, I mean, it's totally two different jobs. And
I know, but that, I mean, they come to me and tell me that, you know, all they need is one person. It can go between the two. So, I mean, what do you do?
Well, I mean, and we talked about that at the finance is, you know, if we go the route of the assistant for the finance department, you know, there may be an ability to also do that. I mean, that was the question we were asking is there enough work to keep this new person busy as administrative assistant for finance? And Mike's answer was yes, that's how much work they have. But again, I think, because we're not going to deal with the communications till next year anyway.
I know, but
So-
it was just something that they brought up, so.
Yeah.
That's why they said, why are they doing two people when they can do it with one?
Well, another thing that was brought up is you need somebody with an accounting background that's gone through accounting school. And how many people are you going to get that has that background that also wants to take on these other tasks?
That's kind of what I'm saying is I don't think we're going to find that.
You
It's
know,
hard enough to find employees the way it is
Yeah,
these days, so.
It's possible, and if we hire and there's not enough work for this employee, then we can discuss maybe doing that.
Yeah. And we had the same question about the communications coordinators. Do we really have that much need to have a full position? So, you know, perhaps, you know, if we fill this accounting position, we'll find out that, you know, there is more that person can do. You never know. It's up to that person we hire, so.
So I have some issues with this. This is a 1.9 increase in our to our taxpayers forever. This said it's for $49,000 to $60,000 a year, but we budgeted, the 2022 budget has in there $105,000. You guys had a commission supposedly analyzing the work up here, and there's no data in here that tells what you guys came up with, no data that says so many people are working this much, we could, you know, hours, and we need overtime, that kind of thing. We could contract this out for $60 a pay period and $4 a person. That's a lot less than what this is.
Can you explain that? I don't understand that.
I talked to a company that contracts out HR and finance work, and they do the manuals, they do the everything. And I asked her how much she charged, and they do several smaller cities, and she said it's $60 a pay period and plus $4 per employee.
$60 a
Per,
week?
per employee?
Period.
Is that per employee?
No, $60, it's $4 per employee and $60 a pay period.
I'm not following, how do we get 40 hours of service from somebody for $60? I'm not following that.
Well, that's what she said. That is her quote. She said 60.
Is that possibly just doing the payroll?
For $60?
Well, it's
I-
more
I
than.
don't know.
Want a print of something for $60.
Well,
I don't know, I'm just,
I think maybe the city could contact this company and ask them for sure. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what she quoted me.
I don't know how we pay.
$4 an employee, so if there's
That sounds like,
100
I think you're right,
employees,
that sounds like
$400.
payroll, but, you know,
but it's $460, but it would,
and they would be in the office for 40 hours a week?
no, but I don't think the city needs 40 hours a week for a staff. We just hired 2 new people in the last year or so.
For what?
Desiree
Replacement
and
positions.
The other girl,
That was
the
a-
other person.
Those were replacements.
Those are replacements. This is new staff. I mean, that's what we talked about personnel committee, and then we went to finance committee with it, but, I mean, there's a need, and this need in the finance department is not new. This is the 3rd year we've talked about this position now.
Well, where's the data backing up?
What data would you like?
I would like to see what people, you guys went in here, I asked to be on the committee multiple times, and the committee you and Shelley were on analyzing the work that was being done up here. I want to see where the data is from that analysis you guys did.
I honestly don't know what analysis you're talking about.
Was there not a committee up?
We talked
Shelley
about
and-
personnel,
and
yeah.
the and the mayor on a committee to analyze the workload of people up here?
There was a discussion, but there was never any, it didn't go real far into detail.
And to clarify, to have 3 council people on a commission, it would be considered a council meeting then. That's why there's.
Well,
But I'm just trying to find out
understand
what, you're under the impression that we did some evaluation and analysis.
Yes.
I don't know how you got
I was
that.
on the understanding that that committee was doing, analyzing what the city needed for new staff. And if that's what you guys were doing, then I presume there should have been some kind of
But
data.
it was not, I mean, we
Obviously.
didn't have any analysis. We had a discussion, with the senior staff about what the needs are.
Well, I think there should be some data to back up that we need to raise taxes again.
What data would you like? That's what I'm trying to get to. What are you looking
Data,
for?
workload of people, what they spend their day doing, that kind of thing. Observing them and evaluating, because I don't think this is required. In my mind, we have, the city has not grown that much where we need to add another $105,000 employee. I just don't see it, and I am adamant about this.
Okay.
The $105,000 cost, the number in there reflects the salary of that individual. There would be the benefit package, which would probably be running closer, probably closer to 80,000. The preliminary numbers in the budget was just put in, that was a preliminary number before we had this recommendation.
Well, I think Suzanne's point is
Yeah.
that she doesn't think city staff has a need, that we're adequately staffed right now. I think is that the point you're trying to make?
Yeah, and I haven't seen any proof otherwise. I would like to see proof that that the city needs another body up here, and I haven't seen it.
Well, and then what I'm asking is, what are you asking for? We did, I know 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I think it was before you were even here, we did an analysis of the city staff, and it was more from pay structure and jobs and that. And we hired a private consultant to do that, probably paid 30, 40 grand to have that done. Is that what you're asking for?
No, but I would like proof. I would like to have the staff say how overworked they are and how they can't get this done and they can't get that done, and what they do all day with their time, that kind of thing. But there's nothing, just a request, let's get another position in here, so we don't all have to work so hard.
That was discussed at the finance meeting, and that's why this recommendation came forward. So our accountant came in, or finance director, I should say, and explained much of that information to us as to why they need another position. That essentially right now, they can do their job, but if one of them is gone for more than a day or two, there's no redundancy in the system. That then these other people have to come in and try to do their job, and then their own performances get overloaded.
Suzanne, I guess what my suggestion is, we had 2 subcommittees of council. We had Personnel Committee and the Finance Committee, and the purpose of that was to work with staff and get a recommendation to council on how to proceed. And both those committees have done what they said that we were going to do. That's why we have this in front of us now. And if there's more information you need, I guess my suggestion is that you talk to our finance director directly, come in and meet with them. He can explain it to you. It's not going to do us any good for Brian and I or Jack try to explain this whole discussion. We were there for a few hours talking about this.
Can
I mean, we are saying based on everything we heard, it's definitely a need. And if you need more than what the finance committee's recommendation is, that's fine. But you're not, you need to dig farther and, meet with Jack and Mike and find out.
Jack, is this anything that's timely that needs to be approved tonight?
Doesn't have to be approved tonight, we're just bringing it up so we can alert everybody that this will be part of the budget discussion. And if you wanted to approve the position tonight, that's fine. We have already put the money for this position in the budget, but that's the preliminary budget, that's not the final budget. And that's open for discussion. We'll have a budget meeting at our August 2nd work meeting. So if it's not approved tonight, it's not that time sensitive, but if it's something we're gonna do, as Steve mentioned, we need to take action and have it approved within the next 2 to 3 months so we can get it advertised. And this person can start at the beginning of 2022.
So if I make a motion to table it until our next meeting in 2 weeks, would that give me enough time to meet with our finance director and gather what,
Sure, and I will get
That's what I
a
was
statement on.
Or
Suggest.
could you bring him to the work meeting? Could you put it on the work meeting? Bring Mike here and then, explain? Is that a big?
Well, it took us over 2 hours to talk through it, so.
Okay, well, I don't know, I'm just asking that, I
Yeah,
don't know.
so,
I mean, I've talked to Mike, I know we need a body, but, it's.
And why wouldn't we consider contracting it?
Because this is well beyond what you can get from contractual services, because we're gonna take some responsibilities of a few other people, like Cindy does the score reporting. It takes a lot of her time. It's hard for her to do because she's interrupted by calls. This would be a job function of this other person. Any other people, we want to consolidate any finance stuff in the finance department. So the work's not fragmented out. It's easier to coordinate and make sure that these other people have time to do their assigned responsibilities other than this other work that's been added to them.
In my experience, contracting is not going to be cheaper than having a person hired on staff for the same work and the same amount of work. I mean, I'd suggest talk to who we talked to before and ask them for a 40-hour person in office, what would they charge? And see how it compares to what the proposed budget numbers are too, so.
I guess.
I mean, if there's a cheaper way of doing it, that's great,
Yeah.
but the $60 per pay period, there's something wrong in that communication.
And maybe I just didn't say a whole gamut of what they do. Maybe that was just one part of what they do. They do a lot.
And on the issue of contracting for some services, I've known other cities that have subcontracted their building inspection department. And the service that they've gone out of some of these subcontractors is not the service that you get out of a full-time employee.
No, that goes the other way too, because we've had contractors we brought on board, too. So, I mean, it can happen both ways, but in terms of accountability, you get better accountability when you have your own employees, especially for something like finance, so.
Are you gonna make a motion to table it?
And you have better control.
Yeah, and then, then you have the issue of they could be changing out people with the contractor too, so. Because just remember, this is a full-time position, so.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to table this until the next council meeting.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that item's tabled. Work meeting.
Our monthly work meeting is scheduled for August the 2nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. Items recommended for council discussion and review could include what may not be limited to the following: the 2022 preliminary budget presentation and discussion, cable franchise fee discussion, Oak Wilt programs, and an ordinance amendment to the potentially dangerous and dangerous dog ordinance. I bring up the Oak Wilt because we had a question from a resident that we might want to have this discussion just for an educational purposes only. At one time, the city did have an Oak Wilt program, but that was when it was funded by Anoka County. The city received some grant money. When that program ended, the city ceased their functions dealing with Oak Wilt because we had no resources to do it with. So we did have an interesting comment from a resident, and this may be a time just to bring up and refresh everybody on the history of the program and see what your feelings are for any movement in that direction going forward.
If we have that Oak Wilt discussion, will Nate be there?
Yes.
Because Ham Lake had a pretty extensive
Yeah.
Oak Wilt program, and Nate used to be with Ham Lake, so I think he can provide a lot of insight too. So.
And I do think a lot of people have, they're just not educated on Oak Wilt and what can happen and how to take care of it. And I think residents would benefit from having someone educate them on that. Because it is a huge problem. I know my yard is 90% oaks. So, you know, I think it would benefit a lot of people.
So, for this work meeting, I'd also like to add the agenda item of introducing the public forum back into our regular council meetings.
Okay.
So if there's any other additions,
Not for me.
Okay, need a motion?
I'll make a motion to set the agenda for our work meeting for August 2nd with these 4 items stated plus introduction of public forum.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, discussion. Seeing none, to the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Street name change.
City Council approves Sand Hill Parkway as the name for the new service frontage road connection from 186th Avenue to Viking Boulevard. As extensions of this route will eventually connect Briarwood Lane to 221st Avenue, there are 2 street segments in that alignment that are named and would be subject to a change to Sand Hill Parkway. One of these sections, Davenport Aberdeen Street between 205th and 209th Avenue, has only 2 addressed parcels, the East Bethel Ice Arena and Soda Storage. Neither of the addressed lots receives mail delivery at this location. Before any other development occurs in this area, and with the intention on having this alignment be named Sand Hill Parkway for its entire length, it would be advisable to consider changing the name of this segment at this time. As council will consider a street name change for Davenport Aberdeen Street between 205th and 209th Avenue, and the eventual extension of the service road south to 181st Avenue would require a street name change for Baltimore Street between Briarwood Lane and 181st Avenue to remain consistent with the street name for this alignment. And as there are no addressed parcels on this segment of Baltimore Street, therefore it be advisable to change the name of Baltimore Street to Sand Hill Parkway prior to any development that occurs on this street frontage. Staff recommends the name change of Baltimore Street between Briarwood Lane and 181st Avenue be included in the public hearing scheduled for August the 9th, and the name of this street segment be changed to Sand Hill Parkway. On the screen, you can see that street segment that's exhibited between Briarwood and 181st. This would be the continuation and the extension of Sand Hill Parkway, again, all the way eventually to 221st Avenue. So we'll have a public hearing scheduled for the Davenport Aberdeen Street name change on August the 9th, and I'm proposing that we add this in that at the same time.
So do we need a motion tonight on this, or wait till the public hearing?
Well, you need a motion to direct me if you want to include this in on the public hearing. We didn't discuss this on the
Right.
previous one because we were focusing on the north, and this is one little segment and leg that would need to be included in that.
Okay. I'll make a motion for the name change of Baltimore Street between Briarwood Lane and 181st be included in the public hearing scheduled for August 9th, 2021, and the name of this street segment be changed to Sand Hill Parkway.
I'll second.
Motion made, second, discussion.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Real quick question. There's nothing on the streets that are gonna get changed?
No.
Okay,
There's no addressed parcels on there
No
now.
homes.
okay,
There are these homes here, but they're addressed as Briarwood Lane.
okay, so it wouldn't affect anybody.
That's correct.
Okay,
And that's another reason we want to consider these now to get this done before anything happens.
okay, thank you.
So, I agree with the idea. My only concern is we don't have an alignment yet between Briarwood and 187th to the north, right?
That's correct.
So we could be offset.
It could be offset, that's correct. It just depends on how this develops. The developer may come in here at one point and decide he wants a street to split this, to come out here and then connect over here. Or it may be just an extension to parallel the existing county ditch and tie into the termination of the road on the cul-de-sac up here at the roundabout that's being constructed now at 187th Avenue. They would both have the common connection point here on the north, but there could be a difference in the point where they connect with Briarwood to the south.
I mean, obviously, it makes sense that if it's the solid line and the western route.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little concerned that there's about a 1/8 mile jog in a road name. I'm just
Yeah.
bringing it out.
Yeah.
We can talk, at the next, when we have the public hearing, but
Well-
I'm just concerned of that jog. I mean, it's nice, if we're gonna do it, it'd be nice to start it at the East Bethel border, which is what it
Correct.
would be.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's another, I don't know if it's a
And then
consideration.
Ham Lake would be forced to use our name
Yeah.
going south.
I was
to
getting
make
ready to
it
say,
work.
the other consideration
I like
is-
that aspect better, so.
But no,
Sorry, Mike.
you're correct. These would probably be one of the two proposed alignments on this. Depending on what happens, if we could get one of the MnDOT cooperative agreement grants, the city may be able to do a portion of this prior to that to start making. Then you'd have a connection all the way from 181st,
Yeah.
then up here to.
I like that aspect of it, so. I just wanted to bring that up, so. Any other discussion? All right, to the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Broadband.
City Council approved the advertisement for proposals for a broadband internet service plan at the May 24th, 2021 council meeting. This action was a culmination of discussions regarding the need for a plan for the expansion of internet service at the March 15th, April 19th, and May 17th, 2021 EDA meetings and the May 3rd, 2021 council work meeting. The proposal is exhibited in attachment 1 to this report was sent to 20 consultants as well as posted on the League of Minnesota Cities and the East Bethel website. The deadline for submittals was 3 p.m. Thursday, July 15th, 2021. The city received 3 responses to the request. The 3 respondents met the qualifications of the RFP, and 2 of the 3 have done work locally or in other locations in Minnesota. The firm that did not list a Minnesota client does have an office in St. Paul. The end product of engaging a professional firm for development of an internet service plan would be the identification of areas that could potentially be served, existing areas that require service upgrade, funding sources, city cost participation, and coordination of the providers to partner their efforts and resources to implement the plan. Preparation of the plan would be an EDA eligible expense should a contract be awarded for the work. Initial fixed fees from the proposals range from $58,345 to $77,305. Generally, the cost for these services are provided as a proposed amount, but final costs are usually negotiated and dependent on the types of service selected by the city. 2021 EDA funds are available and appropriate for a broadband internet plan for the city of East Bethel. As the city received only 3 proposals for the plan, there are 2 options for consideration of the matter. Number 1, we could re-advertise in anticipation of receiving additional proposals, or accept the 3 submittals and invite the proposals to interview with city council. Interviewing the firms does not constitute an obligation on their part to engage their services. Staff is seeking direction from council as to proceeding forward with this matter.
I don't know if re-advertising is gonna get us more proposals.
I
We already
agree.
contacted 20.
Yep.
And if they didn't submit the first time, I doubt, and even if we get one more, it's not, I don't think it's significant.
Well, at least we got 3.
Yeah, I mean, I was worried you only get one, so.
I think 3 is a good number.
I think three's a decent number. 5's better, but, 3's decent.
So I think we should accept them and invite them here and review their history, look for recommendations and, what's the word?
I guess what my
References.
question is,
References.
I don't know, I'm just gonna speak for myself. I'm not versed enough and qualified enough to really go through these proposals from a technical standpoint, understand where their, strengths and weaknesses are. I mean, Chris, is there anyone in your office that have that experience to do that? You helped put this together, so now you're on the spot.
Yeah, well, I think this type of thing is a little bit different than what we had been working on, obviously. If you're talking about expansion and partnering, identifying grants and potential business subsidies and things like that. I don't know necessarily if this would fall under anything that we do.
I would recommend that we contact Samantha Markham with AC Red
Okay.
and let her be part of the panel that interviews those. I think maybe she could offer us some assistance and guide us in that respect. We can check too to see if there's anybody else. We did have a gentleman from the Blanding Corporation that made us a presentation at the EDA meeting, who was very knowledgeable. They're usually confined to doing work in the outstate areas, but I can see if someone like that might be available too, to sit in on this and give us some guidance and advice as we interview these 3 responders.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the interviewing it, but I guess what I'm kind of looking for is, an evaluation from a technical standpoint, we can read these and one of these looks great, just, but are we just looking at what they're saying or is it what they mean? And, have somebody check some of the references out and things like that.
And one of these responders actually did a plan for Isani County.
I saw that. Yeah.
There may be somebody there that can come down here. We've got a pretty good relationship with them, and they might be able to assist us a little bit on that, on what their experience was and what they were looking for, and how it was fulfilled by their proposal or their plan, so.
So I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know if it should be an interview by the full council to have them come here and present, or is this something that should be a subset that reviews it and then makes a recommendation to council? So it's a question for council, how we want to do this, so.
And if we go to the subset, even with council too, we might want to have a couple people from the EDA that have.
Oh, yeah,
some
and
knowledge.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
suggesting, someone that they're gonna look at it in more detail than I think any one of us would. And hopefully they would understand it more than at least I, so. So what's council's pleasure on this?
I'd say the second option, accept the submittals and let's have an interview. Let's have the person that Jack mentioned and somebody from the EDA.
So make a task force, basically, review it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I agree.
Because I'm not qualified, but it's something I really think the city needs.
Yeah, I want fast internet, but I don't know how to get there. So. Are we on that same page, all of us?
Yeah.
Seems like do we need a motion, or do you want
Well, if
to
you
come
just-
back with a recommendation?
You can just give me some direction. I will notify all these that we discussed at the council meeting, and we'll be notifying them in approximately 2 weeks on an interview schedule that will probably be held the end of August, 1st of September. Is that?
Okay.
Says-
All right. I think we're all on the same page there, so.
So you don't need a motion, Jack?
I think direction's
Okay.
good enough for this now, and then we can discuss it at our next
Yep.
meeting too, and that way we can approve anything we need.
Yep.
Okay, item G6, water restriction report.
Due to more than half the state in either severe or extreme drought conditions, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources has determined the state has entered a drought warning phase. This phase initiates requirements for public water suppliers to enact water conservation notifications and/or restrictions based on the population served by the public water systems and the city's water supply plan. Any restrictions at this time would only apply to customers on the city's public water system. This doesn't have anything to do with private wells currently. The East Bethel Water Supply Plan is a DNR requirement for all MPARs, which is the Minnesota Permit and Reporting System, permit holders. Because the city of East Bethel's water utility customer base is below 1,000, the drought warning phase designation recommends that the city provide notification of water conservation measures with the goal of reducing the peak July demand to levels that are 50% above January levels. The City of East Bethel's water supply plan prioritizes the allocation of water resources with the highest priority given to water for human use and needs, and the lowest priority to non-essential water use, such as lawn sprinkling, vehicle washing, and recreation. The recommended notifications would take place via the city website, social media outlets, email listserv, community billboard, and direct customer mailing with the July utility billings. If drought conditions continue to worsen, the next step could be restrictive conditions placed on all MPARS permittees and/or a critical water deficient declaration from the governor that would require the city to enact its critical water deficiency ordinance. This is an information item and no action is needed at this time. However, water conservation measures could be required at any time and are expected if the current drought conditions continue or worsen. We have already provided notification on the website, their social media outlets about DNR's recommendations for this. So those are up there as recommendations currently. As you can see, the map, and I apologize for this in your attachment because it took about 3 steps to get here. It was a Google attachment and I didn't realize it didn't pop up as the map. But here's Anoka County. We're in the severe drought area. We did have some rain Friday night. There's a chance for some rain tonight, but as the DNR has indicated, it's going to take 3 to 5 inches of rain over a 2-week period to get us out of this condition. Those aren't in the forecast. So the current long-range weather forecasts for the rest of the summer and early fall aren't promising either. So this is something we need to be prepared to do. We don't have a mandatory odd even irrigation requirement in our ordinance. Several cities do. They use those on an annual basis, whether in drought conditions or not. This may be something we need to implement as a first time attempt to restrict usage because that is our largest use of water. For example, in Whispering Aspens, in the month of January, we pump around 8,000 gallons of water a day. In June, we pump 30,000 gallons a day. In the water and sewer district south of Viking Boulevard, we pump 30,000 gallons a day in January and 120,000 in June. So one of the biggest things we would probably be looking at is restricting lawn or irrigations in those 2 areas. And again, this just refers to people that are on the city's public water supply. The only way private wells would ever be brought into this if the governor had a declaration that issued restrictions that could affect those people.
In your presentation, you kind of suggested that as of now, this only applies to the public water systems.
Correct.
Could it ever apply to the private water systems?
If the governor made an emergency drought declaration. The DNR doesn't usually do that.
Okay.
And the reason it falls under the DNR is because every person that does a withdrawal permit for over X number of gallons a day is required to do this. Now, it could affect the city in certain areas where we have huge withdrawals for irrigation for our recreational facilities. But other than that, it wouldn't apply to private well users.
Okay.
Well, I checked the weather this afternoon and it showed it was gonna rain all night. And it was gonna be 2 to 3 inches expected, and I just checked it now, it went down to 30%.
Yeah.
It evaporated.
Yeah, I was gonna say, 3 to 5 inches, well, we're supposed to get 2 to 3 tonight.
We'll be halfway there. So this, at this time, this is just an informational item, and we have provided notifications urging conservation of water use. And we'll keep everyone posted if there's any change or updates in the DNR's mandates, or if the governor does
And
require.
there's direct mailings too, you said?
Yeah, we'll
Bills.
put that in the water bills.
Okay. All right, any other questions on this? All right. Move on to staff report.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay, council reports. Shelley.
I have nothing, but I do want to publicly say for the lady that spoke about the Coon Lake situation, I do urge people to please stop using water balloons on the lake. Is it fun? Absolutely. Would I like to do it? Absolutely. But it is not safe for the fish. It is not safe for the birds. It's not safe for anything, and it does make a mess for the lake shores, the residents. I get a generator and get a water pump, and that's what I'm gonna do next year, and have fun that way. So, just, yeah, that's all I have, is to just please stop using water balloons on the lake.
Okay, Brian.
There was a EDA meeting scheduled for last week. It was canceled. In lieu of that, we did have an email sent out to all EDA members with the proposals for the internet service plan, that the 3 proposals, and it was suggested that EDA members review them and get back to staff with any recommendations or any information they may have. That's pretty much all on any city function stuff. Just saying, in general, we got the drought, we got highs in the 90s, upper 90s this week. It's looking like it's gonna go into next week. If anybody has senior neighbors, be neighborly, go out, take a walk in the evening when it cools down, go knock on the door, see how they're doing, especially if they don't have air conditioning. And just be neighborly, check on them, say hi, see how they're doing, make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
So, other than that, stay cool.
All right. Suzanne.
I'm going to emphasize water conservation. People's wells have been drying up, and they've had to pay tens of thousands of dollars to have their wells dug deeper. So please, don't water your grass. Water your gardens, but not your grass. I do have a planning commission meeting tomorrow, and I did go to the party in the park, which was kind of fun. I spent plenty of money at the vendors. I spent plenty of money on all that food. I listened to some nice music, and I walked around and watched people, and it was very interesting. I do have a question for Jack, and I am wondering how Ms. Gimple knew that I refused to release the body cam video. I don't think she should have known that. I don't know why she wouldn't even need the copy of it. So I'm kind of offended that she asked that question when she was up there.
I don't think that was the question that she asked. She said she'd made a public data request.
And but I don't know that she should have known that who released it and who shouldn't have released it. It just-
Because she said both Suzanne and I did not
Yeah,
sign the
She
paper.
did stay up.
She said that up here?
Yeah,
Yes.
the public forum.
Yeah, that was wrong. So that's all I've got.
Well, if that came from me, then I apologize.
Well, I think it also came from all the council members, the other council members too, so. Because we're all waiting to see that, so. Tim?
I too attended Booster Days. I just want to thank Stephanie Dorn, Scott Snyder, and Kerry Frost for all the hard work they did on a short schedule. Look forward to next year because we're going to try and go full blown next year. We had a Joint Powers Fire Department meeting this last week. They're getting the other fire departments to get all their information together for their contract for 2023 because they vote on it in January. And today the fire department did extraction. They were learning how to take people out of car accidents, and that's all I've got.
Good. Yeah, party in the park, it was interesting. It was fun, and it was a little bit different, and a little bit different crowd, a lot of kids, and it was nice to walk up and see like 30, 40 kids all over the brand new park equipment, and they were jumping all over it. My wife goes, "They're gonna break something." I said, "Well, this is the test of how well we put it together. Let them jump on it." So.
I think for a
Love that
solid
part.
4 hours, it was fully used.
Yeah, the whole time it was there. It was crazy how well it was used, so.
Yeah. And one thing to add, I do like the fireworks a little earlier, about 9:40. I think traditionally they're about 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
I
it
think
was a
the
little bit earlier.
Earlier time was.
It made
kinda
for a more
nice.
compact night, so.
Yeah.
It was nice. I mean, I hope we continue with some kind of format like that, so. And night to night is next Tuesday, not tomorrow, next Tuesday. And so we'll get, council members will get lists of the parties and,
The sheriff's department will send us that list. When they do, I will forward it to everyone.
okay, good. I think this year will be a little more special than previous years. So, and I think from the sound of it, there's gonna be more parties too. I've heard of a lot of neighborhoods that never had parties before. They're gonna plan to do it, so. Which
Party
is,
at your house?
no.
Oh.
No, I'll be running around. I try to get as many as I can, so. The fire department pretty much gets to everyone because they split it up, but when there's 19 parties, it's hard to get around in 2 hours, so, and then talk to people. But, and then in years past, we've tried to, if the council members are going, we've tried to kind of split it up a little bit too, so. I do want to talk about what happened on July 9 at Gratitude Farms. I know there was discussion at last council meeting, and I've seen that. And, you know, I just, when I read the initial email about what happened, I honestly didn't believe that happened. That sitting council members would go out and try to do an inspection of an East Bethel business without any authorization, without any discussion with council, without any discussion with our staff who are charged and employed to do those things. And, you know, between Susanna and Shelley to take that on themselves and to go out and inspect the business because you feel like you have that authority is just absolutely wrong. And I don't know what our other permit holders and other businesses through the city think of that. You know, the fact that city council members feel that they can just show up and do an inspection, which for one, you know, we don't have qualifications to do that. Just flat out, we don't have qualifications to do it. And it was done without authorization. And And then really, what really kind of got my gourd a little bit is you employed 2 of our sheriff deputies to accompany you on this unauthorized inspections that you did. And, you know, to use and to abuse city resources, I mean, those are our tax money. And we pay for those deputies to be out there. And, you know, you know, it was said at public forum, those 2 deputies were taken off our roads, the busiest time of the week, just to help support whatever you're doing. And Suzanne, with your statement of wanting on record, one, there'll be a record, it'll be the body cam if that's ever released, and 2, you know, basically for protection. And, you know, if you have a feeling that something's not quite right, it probably isn't right. And I just don't understand how you feel that just because you got elected, you're qualified and have the ability just to go out carte blanche and inspect our businesses. When we have staff, then that's their job. And, you know, I understand that you talked to Nate and asked Nate to come with, and he declined to go with. I'm sure there's a good reason why he declined to go with, because it wasn't right. I read the deputy's report, and we said that, no, this is not right. So everyone knew it was not right except for the 2 of you and Jim Smith. And I just want to know why you think you have authority to do that.
Out of all the complaints, out of all the information that has come across me about Gratitude Farms, the reason I went out there was to see if she was in compliance. And that was the only reason. Let me finish. Number 7 of our IUP, Ms. Gimple shall allow city officials or their agents on her property to complete random inspections to ensure compliance. Random means anytime.
No, it does not. Random means it's not scheduled.
Right.
Okay?
So we didn't.
So you think you could show up at 3:30 in the morning to any business?
No.
Then why?
I went out there to try to clear her. She has been, do you realize how many people have slammed her and how much,
the 3 of us have been around listening to this for 3 years.
So
on
what
Facebook.
is wrong with a person going out there to see, okay, you know, these dogs are okay. Oh, you know, she only has 10 dogs.
Is that what you asked? You went
We
out
couldn't
there,
talk to her because
you went out there with 2 deputies demanding to see something.
I did not ask the deputies.
Did you
and
call ahead and say, Tammy, can I come and see your business?
That wouldn't, why would you, if
you wanted to clear her, if that's what you just said, you wanted to clear all these accusations, if that was truly your intention.
Why would you, if someone is doing something wrong, why would you call somebody and say, hey, I'm coming out to your house?
How do you know someone's doing something wrong?
Who knows if she is, who knows if she doesn't?
No, you just said she was doing, you wanted to see if she was doing something. Why do you think she was doing something wrong?
I wanted to say that if she was doing something wrong, okay, we'd catch it. If she's not doing anything wrong, then we wouldn't have found anything.
Why did you suspect she was doing something wrong?
Because of all the complaints that have come against her.
And where do the complaints come from?
All over social media.
Social media.
Hearsay.
So you know, let me finish. It's bad enough that there's people that believe what they read on social media. You're an elected official. You're going to make decisions that affect people's business and their livelihood based on what you read on social media. That is the most irresponsible thing that a representative of government and representative of our citizens can do. It's not based on fact. It's not based on fact.
It is if she posts it.
What is?
If she posts something that looks like it is again a violation of her IUP, if she posts the pictures, if she posts a comment, if she comments on something um, on her page, she doesn't have a web page, like she has a Facebook page. That's the only thing she has. And there are a lot of complaints posted there of people, but if she posts something and we want to go investigate. Now, as far as us not having the authority, we have as much knowledge and qualification as Aaron. Aaron is the one who signed off on these.
As our compliance officer.
Yes.
You're as experienced as our compliance officer.
We are elected officials. We are the ones held accountable. We delegate to the city. So when a boss delegates to somebody, we have the boss has the authority to go do whatever they delegate.
But you know what the boss is? We are part of a council. We are not, none of us have any authority as a single person. We have authority as a council.
We have authority for one vote.
One vote, you have one vote on whatever this council decides.
I get a lot of calls, and all I wanted to do was say, yes, you're right, we're taking care of it when people call, or tell them, you're wrong, her place, when you drive up, her place is beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, and I thought, oh my gosh, all these people are full of crap that are calling and complaining about her, because this place looks great. All I wanted to do was look and make sure that she was actually in compliance, and then I could tell everybody who's calling, you're wrong, her place is amazing, she takes great care, it's clean, she's got heat, she's got air, she's got all this stuff that she needs.
You can go to North.
And did you call ahead and ask Tammy if you can have an inspection?
No, because I wanted to go in as a random inspection. I've done random inspections my whole military career on hospitals and on.
Because you were authorized to do it there. You're not authorized to do it as a council member.
To clarify, it's not wrong that you wanted to go out there to view it, but you did it the wrong way.
Correct.
None of us have the authority to just show up.
Well, I apologize if we did it the wrong way.
Yeah,
On record, I do apologize.
We either have to bring information
And
that
she
we
said
see
she
on
had two
social media.
horses?
I'm not.
There's
that
3.
we're not
I know
getting
how to
into that.
count.
But any information you see on social media, you bring to council, you bring to Jack. If you want to go out there, meet with Jack and say, this is what I'd like to do. And Jack would set up a time with Tammy so that either he or our building official who does inspections could go out there and you could go along. That is the proper procedure of how it would be done, not to just show up there with 2 deputies.
And even if in the wildest dream that any business will allow a council member to inspect when they show up just like that, even if you did and you found things and what were you going to do with the information? Because we would have to have our city inspectors who are authorized and experienced to go confirm what you just did.
And even at that, if we went to court with that information, the judge might throw it out because it wasn't proper procedure, just like a cop going out to some place without a search warrant.
Yeah, if you gave us permission.
No.
No, it doesn't.
Anyways, and I think.
Authorized personnel. Read the IUP. No, we are not authorized to go and walk in the East Bethel Theater and making sure that they're doing everything right.
City officials.
If I've walked into the theater and looked around. I've gone to North Metro and they said, come on, let's go look around. They told me that.
What does that got to do with this?
No, because it's an example. They told me that, and I've gone to some kennels too and just walked up and said, hey, if I wanted to inspect, would you have a problem with that? And they're like, no, come on in. You know, and I had identified myself as a city council person.
Right,
They
but
said anybody from the city can come anytime they want. They know that.
that's fine, but you're categorizing yourself as an inspector.
No, I'm not. I can't.
You just said you were gonna do
myself
inspection.
Yes, if I wanted to inspect, not that I am here to
Okay.
inspect.
There's a difference between viewing something and inspecting something. Inspecting something, you're looking for particular items, you know, whether it be on a list, the IUP, whether a permit for compliance. If you're just viewing to walk through and see a place, that's fine.
Okay,
But
then
otherwise, you're inspecting for compliance, which is a legal term. You don't have that authority. If you found something egregious, we couldn't act on what you saw.
If I found something egregious, I would bring it back to the city and say, hey, Jack, this is really going on. These complaints are true. It's not hearsay.
And then we would have Jack or whoever go and do the inspection, because that's the only word we can go off. We can't go off of your word. No
Then-
disrespect, we can't.
Then why does it say, Ms. Gimple shall allow city officials or their agents to be
Do you think
on her property to complete random inspections to ensure compliance? Why is it in her IUP then?
So is your point that you were an agent?
City official. What's wrong with wanting to go out and look at a business?
Nothing, like I said before.
Thank you.
To look at a
Right way,
business,
do it
that
the
was the
right
key
way.
word. You said, look at a business. That is different than inspection.
I stand corrected. I'm sorry if I used the wrong word.
Well, but I'm saying is, if our compliance officer goes out there and inspects something and it's wrong, now we've got basis, legal basis, if we have to go to court over it. If you go in there and call yourself an inspector and say, I found this, there is no way any court's gonna support that.
Who says anything about court?
Because
We were just trying
you're
to-
looking for compliance. It's
We
a
were
legal
trying to
term.
shut people up on Facebook.
I didn't see you shutting people up on Facebook when you were replying to their posts.
That's
I don't
because she
remember
didn't, that's because,
If you want to,
if she
why
didn't have
didn't you?
anything to, why is everybody so, and I'm getting really frustrated, why are you defending her?
I am
If
not.
she had nothing to hide, why couldn't she just say, oh yeah, come in and take a look, take a look?
Because she has Fourth Amendment rights.
You know what?
Why don't you look at the league handbook?
Yeah.
Read that a couple of times, and you'll get your answer.
You know,
You're supposed to have an administrative order to do anything. If they tell you no, you gotta get an administrative order. You didn't do that. And you're supposed to be licensed or certified. Neither one of you are, so.
I was
That
going
ain't
off
gonna
this,
stand-
I
they're gonna- The
apologize.
court's gonna throw that out so fast, because they're gonna go by what the league says.
Nobody wanted to take anybody to court. I just wanted to prove.
Not
that
yet.
it was okay.
But who are you gonna prove it to, and how are you gonna prove it? What would have changed if you would have found something? She had a bag of dog food ripped on the floor, it's not allowed. What would you have done?
I would have asked her, well, a bag of dog food ripped on the floor isn't something I was looking for anyways, but
What were you looking for?
I was looking for animals in a clean environment. I was looking for animal, making sure she had a carrier in the back of her vehicle, that kind of thing, and that was clean and not full of dirt and stuff like that. I mean, she posted the picture of an animal crate that had feces in it, so I was curious about that. She posted that picture.
Okay. And what did you do with the picture? You took it upon yourself?
It's on Facebook.
You didn't go to staff and say there's a problem here and can you go check this out? You know, I think there's a reason why you specifically didn't talk to anyone on staff.
No,
Other
it
than
was
evidently Nate, trying to bring Nate along, but
It was just a spontaneous thing. It wasn't even, we didn't even.
it was spontaneous that the three of you showed up and called the sheriff's department and decided, hey, let's just do this on Friday afternoon.
After a phone call of a complaint, yes, we talked about it.
And what was
we-
the complaint?
that's, I'm not going to go into.
I think there was something about animal abuse. That's what one of the deputies told me. That's what it was.
I don't
That come out from you, right? It come right out of you.
There was
It was
nothing
animal
to do with
abuse.
that
That's why you wanted
abuse.
to come and check. It come right
I
out of
don't
you.
remember.
Well, then you better
using that
talk to the
word.
deputy.
That's why I'm going to view the body cam. And if I said animal abuse, that was a wrong term. But I don't recall saying that word.
So you are going to agree to release the video?
I'm going to get it first. And then
Why would you do that?
Because I want to see if I really said that.
And what if you did?
Then I'm going to definitely apologize. Everybody's going to.
But not release the video?
I want to see it first.
Okay. What I recall from your discussion last meeting is, and I think I said this already, you wanted deputies there to record what was going on, and you want a deputy there for, basically for protection. You want a deputy there to record it. It's been recorded. It's a video. It's fact.
Yeah.
Why are you afraid to release?
I'm not afraid to release.
You just said you're going to review it first before you decide.
Exactly.
Why would you do that?
And I didn't say before I decide. I said I want to see it first myself before I release it.
Which suggests that there may be a reason why you wouldn't agree to release it.
Here, I have nothing to hide. There's mine.
Okay, there. Shelley signed hers.
Jack, one person, what I understand from the deputies is one person can't view it. It's got to be signed by the four of them before anybody. One person can't say by themselves. from what I
One
understand.
person can, but then everything else is redacted except for their
Okay, they just take the
statements.
faces off then.
Yeah, so any other conversations redacted, faces are blurred out. So the only thing you would have would be anything that's recorded Suzanne or Shelley or Tammy saying something.
Again,
The reason the city requested it from all four was so we could get to the bottom of this. This has been an issue, that does have to be notarized, Shelley, I hate to tell you, can you drop by tomorrow or the next day so we can get that notarized? You got it notarized?
it's got to be notarized.
Is somebody a notary here?
Not tonight.
Unfortunately not.
So, I mean, again, it comes back to, I mean, what's on the tape is going to be what happened, obviously. It's going to be what happened. And so far, I mean, unless you're disputing what the deputy wrote in their report, I assume it's going to follow what the deputy wrote in the report, which we've all read. And so just the fact that it's, you know, the video is not going to be released willingly, I guess, or whatever, you know, that says some volumes too of what, you know, they're concerned about what happened there. But video or not, it doesn't change the fact that you showed up at an East Bethel business demanding an inspection, and you're unauthorized to do that, and you're just acting rogue from the council. And I don't know what you're going to achieve other than, you know, upsetting a lot of people. You know, we're getting questions from the business community, is this how we operate? You know, this is, you know, third time in 6 months we've had issues of votes or actions that have been anti-business by this, at least a portion of this council. And the business community is concerned about that. And I would be too. Anyone that has an IUP, I'd be concerned about, you know, the two of you showing up at any time or thinking you can.
We're not anti-business. And
But you voted and acted 3 times in the last 6 months against our businesses.
And you guys have shut businesses down in this city, so don't even
Which
tell me.
businesses?
Which business we shut down?
Well, the detailing one for one,
The detailing.
Which detail?
The one that had 10 employees at their house?
3 employees, one more than authorized. And
They didn't even have a permit to start with.
exactly. You shut them down, and they've been in business for 15 years. It's family-owned business. Yeah, no. you
And they
talk
agreed
about-
to. I don't understand what your point is.
No, you made them go do overhead. Relocate, find a place where they could operate with overhead. They couldn't do their business anymore. TN, or I can't even think of the name of it anymore. But, oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it was in a residential neighborhood, you can't have 10 employees, the cars filling the streets. That was a council action.
They didn't have cars filling the street.
And that was based on neighbor complaints.
Actually, no, it wasn't, but okay.
So you weren't even on council then, were you?
Yes, I was, I just got on council when you, and I voted against,
Okay.
but you keep calling me anti-business, and you guys are the ones who keep shutting businesses down and
Keep shutting, what other businesses have we shut down?
restrictions on them, et cetera, et cetera.
When you're
So-
home occupation, you have to have restrictions. That is a residential district. The neighbors have an expectation of a neighborhood. And if your business is too big, that is becoming not a neighborhood or a disruption, then council has to do something.
And in that case, they didn't have a permit to have a business there. Is that correct, Jack? They didn't have a,
I think they had an.
I would have to look at that. I think you're correct, but I'm not 100% certain, but I can double check it.
but we worked with them too. I mean, they came and made their plea on what's going on with them, and we understood, and we worked with them. And I assume we haven't heard any complaints since, so I assume that's been resolved. So tell me what other businesses this council's kicked out of the city.
I have to look. But there-
Yeah, because
there's
there
one-
aren't any, Suzanne, you keep saying this, that's how you defend yourself. Okay? You voted against Whispering Aspen.
Yes, I did. because
Yeah, even though we knew, we were by state law, I don't even want to get into all this. We can't, as a council, just act independently and go out and represent the rest of the city and say we're here to inspect somebody. It was just so wrong. And I don't understand how you don't think that way. So, and then I want to add the fact that you recruited a planning commission member who has zero authority to do anything other than be on a voluntary advisory committee to council, and to think that adds to the credence of what you're doing. That was astounding.
And he wasn't asked because he was a planning commission person. He was asked because he had some construction knowledge.
He identified himself as a planning commission member. That's why I read out of the report.
You read the wrong report
Then release the video.
then. Right.
Then release the video.
Read the report.
Yeah,
You're putting shit in there that ain't there.
I have.
So why? That's
Yeah.
why we need to see the body cam.
But our volunteer commission members have no business at all.
I was asked to go, so I went, because you chicken shits wouldn't go if they wanted to have somebody go inspect it.
We have people at the city to do that job.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's like, you guys are just like hiding something. What's the deal?
Well, Jim,
We have an inspection for 2 years.
They didn't do anything last year, Jim, because of COVID. They didn't do anything.
Don't blame it on COVID. It was
Bull.
19.
No, this council made direction and understood that we were not doing inspections on business IUPs during COVID.
Not just
This
hers.
council was aware of that.
Not just hers, all.
All.
This year too, nobody's done an inspection either.
I think he heard there was inspection scheduled for June that didn't occur.
Actually, the inspection was done on July the 20th. We don't normally do inspections in the springtime on these type of activities because you have to be able to see the ground. So any inspections we done would be scheduled probably for May. Due to the catch-up stuff, we had an inspection scheduled, as she indicated, for I believe June the 25th. There was some misunderstanding about the schedule, so the inspection was done on July 20th, 2021 for her private kennel license and also for her animal control officer service, because it's basically the same one.
You know, it's one thing for a council member to step outside the bounds, and to feel like they have the authority. It's a far different thing when a private citizen who is a volunteer on one of our commissions thinks they have the authority. I'm making a motion to remove Jim Smith from Planning Commission, effective immediately. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
That motion passes. Effective immediately, you're off in Planning Commission. Thanks for your service, Jim.
You're opponent, and I will approve that. So you want to run your mouth, just keep running.
So my concern is, what's the next business you're gonna do this to when you get complaints off of Facebook that are unsubstantiated?
Now that I know the rules, and none.
Now that you know the rules, or the rules are just been explained to you? You know, there's a saying that ignorance is no excuse, right? And
When
I
I
say,
ran,
sir, if I don't know how you thought that was proper. I can't imagine how you thought that was proper, and how you could not have had the feeling of maybe this wasn't quite right. Maybe I should ask Jack, or ask our city attorney who understands the legal proceedings. So, I mean, I want to make it clear, and if others want to say this too, but, you know, this is not how our city operates. This is not how the council, you know, supports our business community. You know, I've said this before, you know, we've worked long and hard to work with the business community and help support what they're doing, and which helps supports the whole community, and to get away from this misnomer that we've had for years that we're not business friendly, and then have to deal with this again in this action, which is, you know, far more direct than the actions in the past. It's, you know, our business community needs to understand that. So I'm going to make a motion of censure of Councilmember Suzanne Urkel for actions on July 9th for unauthorized inspection and for misuse of our city's resources and our police protection.
What does that mean?
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Our city attorney can explain it to you.
It's a statement of disapproval by the council. It would need to come back for written resolution. It's a statement of disapproval that's made by a majority vote.
That's all? Just, I understand they disapprove of what we did.
It's a
It's a formal
statement
approval of council, or disapproval. So,
by resolution.
So that'll have to come back.
That'll have to come back because a written
Okay,
resolution is
okay.
required.
is there any other discussion? I'm going to make a motion to table the matter, directing city attorney to create the resolution with the findings of facts. I mean, not findings of fact, but resolution with reasons, and bring that back to the August 23rd city council meeting.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
That motion passes. That matter is tabled to August 23rd. Also, based on the actions of July 9th at Gratitude Farms, I'm going to make the motion to censure Councilmember Shelley Beck. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made second. Discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to move the table that matter until August 23rd at our regular council meeting, again with the purpose of having a resolution in front of us. Is there a second to table?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. That's all I have for tonight. Make a motion or entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Our meeting's adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Jack, you want to do this or wait?